Oh, damn, this song rocks. Actually, you know what? We actually need proper rock. There we go. What's up, one and all? Oh, happy... Wait, which day is it? Thursday! Oh, that used to be a very familiar day. My brain actually just fragged out what day of the week it was. But yes, we are back. More Age of Empires 4 already. Trying to think, actually. I need to keep an eye out, because I think... Is Pragmata next week? Maybe the week afterwards. I'll have to double check that. What's up, our base? Had a safe trip home? Yeah, we got home on Tuesday. For us, it's really easy, right? Because, like, I mean, we went to London. We live an hour and a half away by train. So, yeah, we got back easily. Just kind of unwinding and whatever. Still got a lot to catch up on. Spent a little bit of time with the kids. Now I'm just basically ditching Freya on Emma. Ezra's sleeping right now, whereas Freya literally just came into here a second ago. Completely caked in chocolate. Like, I don't know why, but for some reason, Emma thought it would be a good idea to give Freya a bunny that big instead of one of the tiny eggs. Unmonitored. So she just, like, opens the door. She's like, Daddy, help! And I'm like, oh my god, get away from everything. Like, there's so much here you could completely ruin. Seriously, she was completely caked. And she still had a giant glob of chocolate in her hands because it started to melt, but it hadn't fully melted, right? So we're talking like, you know, that high on her hand still. I'm like, Jesus. Couldn't have been that hungry. Very soon, great AoE content. Yeah, we'll see. I'm trying to figure out what we're going to do today. So, like, we only covered one of the AoE 4 series from Red Bull Wallol. I don't really know, like, there's not really much more going on right now, tournament-wise, until the weekend. So it's like, we could do some pub games, or we could go over the other Red Bull games. I'm not sure what people's preference is there. Because obviously, those are games that have happened, but we can give our own take and analyze and talk tidbits and whatever. It's really what people want, I guess. I don't mind either. Like, in terms of pub games, there's probably a few people that have been playing, but, like, you know, when it comes to even the pro-level players, a lot of the players probably would have taken a few days off over Red Bull anyway. Same with the build-up, really. Because there's nothing else for them to do, right? Like, you know, unless you can somehow get bribed by one of the players to do crack games with you. I still remember that happened last time with Ronaldo, where I think it was like Anatan was just like getting a little bit of a salary from Marine to play games against him. Because it makes sense, right? Like, I mean, you can't fault Anno if that's how it went down, because you don't need to play for like a month or two. This is back with the Spanish event, if you guys remember. But yeah, the video is up on YouTube now for people that are wondering what the hell's going on, whatever. We're back, kind of. We're going to see how it goes, basically. Players pay their practice partners in some circumstances, because in certain environments, like, it does make sense if you think about it, right? So, for example, back with El Reynado, I believe that's when we knew a new DLC was coming, right? So the thing you've got to remember is in that situation, what you have is 2 players for a LAN that need to play, and a bunch of players who have no reason to play the game to practice competitively because they know, like, you know, DLC's coming or a giant patch is coming. So you do need to incentivize them. Because otherwise, actually, it's quite healthy for that player to say, you know what, if there's nothing to gain here, I'm going to take a little bit of time to unwind because, you know, just continuously playing the game, going to get burnt out and whatever. Yeah, that's why I always respect Mister a lot for that. It's like he would just take the breaks. I'm going to put a poll up for you guys, by the way. So we can decide what we're going to do. What to do. Pub games or review the Red Bull Wallol games. I guess I'll give you 5 minutes on that as people are circling in. Wait, is everything working? Just double checking we're good everywhere. It's been a little bit weird. Yeah, I think we're good. So yeah, we'll just give that a few minutes to run. Is there a way I can show that poll on screen? Ooh, there is. It's a little bit funky the way I'm going to have to do it, though. Which is I'd have to come in. What's my poll thing? Wait, did I accidentally remove my poll thing? Oh no, dude. I don't think I have my poll thing anymore. One sec. Twitch poll track overlay. Let's see if we can find it. I used to have one. I have to find a new one now, aren't I? Oh, yeah, I am. Well, that's cool. There's like a site that makes lots of different ones, so I have to look at that one later. Maybe I can find the one I used to use. Oh, wait, no, that was for predictions. That's why. So poll would be different. Sure. I guess I'll just, like, double check on it every once in a while. Enjoy the stream. Just walking around Kensington Park now. Oh, nice. You went to the Science Museum? That's cool. I haven't been there in years. Like, yeah, you've done the museums. Must have been 10 years ago. But yeah, we just didn't, like, hang around because we got a hotel, right? And then we came back. Because, you know, it'd be a bit unfair, be a bit ruthless of us to, like, ditch our kids on relatives for longer. I mean, sounds like a plan, to be honest. Apparently, they were good as gold, so I don't know what we rushed back for. We should have just kind of milked that. But yeah, so I'm just having a look as well in terms of players that, like, have been playing on the ladder. And it's like a weird feeling. It's like, it feels like in some ways we've reversed instead of pulled forward because, like, going back to podcast, ugh. So like, I'm gonna have to find out the balance of that because I want to take a different approach. If Pubcast is part of things again, we need to have a very different approach. So maybe it's like, maybe we revisit the low Elo Legends series, even though it seems that kind of, I don't know. Back to AoE, we're going to see how it goes. So it should be an interesting mixture of like content coming, especially in coming weeks. I'm kind of intrigued to see like what we're going to try and do towards the end of this month. Because, for example, those who don't know, Olden Era. Do you guys see this? Olden Era finally got an announcement, a critical, important announcement. You guys know about this? This is pretty freaking epic, actually. One sec. It got a release into early access anyway. It's coming 30th of April. I'm buzzing for this. I don't know, like, how intrigued or whatever, like how big the overlap is between AoE 4 people and like my Magic people. But I'm excited to try this out and see where it's at. There was also, in terms of tournaments coming and whatnot, so Opposed World Cup, they've got their qualifiers on the weekend. And we'll definitely look to like catch those games, so we'll cast them here. I'll go over a bunch of those games. In terms of like the people playing for the Opposed World Cup, which has, you know, is EWC. If you guys didn't catch the genius of that. So they've already got a few players in there. Anno, Marine Lord, Wham, Vortex, Poppy Paw, B. But the qualifiers are going to see a bunch more. So I believe it's 5 from each. And that plays out across 2 days, right? That plays out 1 a day across the weekend. The CEO, have they got any sign-ups so far? No, they haven't. Like, well, they haven't filled that out. But StartGG might actually have the deets. StartGG. Wait, are they not using StartGG? Okay, I guess not. But there's also another tournament coming a wee little bit down the line, as in a week afterwards. Actually, it's a bit weird because I think Opposed Cup is on the same weekend, if I'm not mistaken. But there is also going to be this, I noticed, which is Border Settlements, which we'll probably be checking out as well. Like, I imagine a few players will be signing up for this. So, $1,500 prize pool, April 18th, 19 GMT plus 8, which, let me just double check that is what I think it is, which is horrible. Oh, no, that's fine. Yes, 11 a.m. Yeah, dude, that's fine. So, we'll have to check that one out as well. They're going to have a BO1 early rounds into semis and finals being BO3, BO5s respectively. So, should be a fun one to see. I imagine they're going to have a few players such as Louis in this, because rumor has it Louis started to play again. Because I believe this was a Mandarin, this Chinese channel, if I'm not mistaken, right? No, do not get me DMCA'd, thank you. So yeah, lots to do and lots of content to check out. But for now, I think what we'll do, it looks like you guys have spoken. You have voted. we're going to be checking out the rest of the Red Bull Wololo games. So we were starting to slide into second series. I don't know why I've just opened a speedrun clock. That's not what I want to do. Yeah, speedrun the grand finals, man. Okay, so should we continue where we left off? Yeah, screw it. Let's continue where we left off. All right. All right, so we're going to actually go ahead and continue reviewing the Red Bull Wololo game. So this was game number 2 of Wham versus Vortex. Game number 1 was surgical by the Canadian. I was really impressed at just how easily he was able to unravel the aggression attempt by Vortex. Felt like it was in some ways decided by a very early point and then kind of snowballed from there, which is quite often the case in RTSs. It feels like a lot of the time when you misstep or you get outplayed early on, you're sitting there waiting for a mistake to be made in kind. And if it doesn't happen, the game doesn't come back together. Let me know if you guys are okay with the chat window being up there like that, by the way. Okay. So, Abbasids versus Macedonians. This is really interesting, actually. There's a few details that like people weren't aware of. I was even talking with like a few pros at the time, and not all of them were clocking into this. Macedonians is a surprisingly effective pick on this map in particular, because on Frisian Marshes, you get the fish. And the reason that's important is apparently fish drop-off is giving silver. I didn't know this, because I don't think it even shows on the UI. And apparently quite a few players didn't realize, like a few of the top picked it up. So I don't know if it's something that accidentally got patched in recently, because I don't think it's intended. But apparently you do get silver on drop-off with the food, which is a wild game changer. So that's why Macedonians players tend to feel like they have so much food so quickly on this map. And also, conceptually, the rest of what Macedonians does fits really well with this map. Because the thing you have to remember is that with the Macedonians, when you go for the Hippodrome build, you want to have leverage points for your cavalry across the map. Frisian Marshes will give that to you in droves because of all those ponds. This is a map that's dictated by mobility. So Macedonians is a natural shoe-in there. What's cool is the Abbasid pick from Wham, though. This is something of a specialist pick. I don't think it got talked about on the day because like, there's so much going on, so much more to talk about. But I always love to highlight that this is a specialist pick for Canadians. Wham and Puppy Paw have a very different approach to the Abbasids and a very potent approach. They value it immensely above most players in the game, even though most other players would dub this the worst Civ or one of the worst Civs in AoE 4 at the moment. Great map for it as well. Frisian Marshes, you do get all those cheaper dock placements with the 75 wood cost. So it allows you to inflate very fast. But what's going to be more intriguing is like a lot of players who aren't the Canadians might get on this and they're like, I don't know, dude. I'd probably go Abbasids with Mass Horsemen. Not necessarily when Wham and Puppy Paw are there, you're starting to think, what's the infantry a component? Are they thinking Archer Mass, Spear Mass? Because these guys tend to lean more into the infantry side than most players in Pro right now. Do traders also give silver now? That's a good question. I'd have to double check, because I don't know when the last time was I've actually seen a Macedonian player build a trader. I would assume so. It would be kind of weird if it didn't. Especially if it's an imprint of the Byzantines, because the Byzantines do get olive oil from their trade. By the way, do you guys like this kind of format with talking head in the corner, or is it too cluttered? I think it's okay, right? So we can actually kind of like, I guess, speed through this a little bit at times. Let me double check, actually. Do we have... Oh, we're in 1080p. That's ass. Give me up that 1440. Yeah, baby. All right. So first horseman coming out. Now, wow, the interesting thing here is if he can force things towards infantry, like we just said they like to, it is a beneficial position to be in, because with the Abbasids, you're able to nullify the value that Macedonians get for their infantry, right? They have, for example, the Bog Mafur, they cost more resource, but they do have more health. That's one of the big attractive points. Boot Camp spits in the face of that. That's why I think the Abbasid pick is actually quite crafty here. Have to be careful around the cavalry, of course. And the way this played out was quite interesting, right? So, like, Vortex, he went into this initial horseman, as was pretty predictable. And then, I believe, if I remember correctly, Wham, he had, like, this weird pivot where, yeah, so he goes Rax. And I think he sticks Rax, but the second component, I think he might cancel, then switch between Stables and Archery to try and throw his opponent off. But the Rax has to be anticipated here, right? Like, you get forced into it because if you try to go horseman as well, your horsemen are just worse. Even if you get a camel archer in there, the damage you negate from the Macedonian horseman is just like it balances out because of the padding of the horseman that gives +2 damage, the champion. And then you have to worry about all this silver that just gets invested into additional melee tech. So it feels like as you gradually go on, you're a bigger and bigger loss. So I like that Wham very early on was like, okay, how do I turn a crappy situation into a good one? How do I advantage myself early before we start talking about that silver? And by the way, you'll be able to see if the silver's trickling in from the fishing. Because if you guys just watch, he's at 140 silver right now. And he has now got fishing online. So we should momentarily see that starting to work. But Wham, it's just raw spearing. We do have the military boot camp coming in. Like, overall, like, I really like that he just took the more kind of slow-paced approach, because I think when you play a Basses, there's also a temptation to just push your first units across, build a ram, take the docks, but you can't do that with horsemen there. They get bonus damage against the rams. You just be deleting yourself at, like, a rapid pace. You guys can't hear the other casters, right? I don't know what caused this issue, because I think they actually fixed it midway through this series on the clean feeds. But guys, look at the silver. You see the silver up here? So you see the silver? He was at 140 before. He's now at 144. So you had a single drop-off of fish. So you get, I think it's 10% silver on your fishing drop-off. Yeah, Macedonians are secretly a good pick on water. Who'd have thunk it, right? I say on water. On fishing. It is, at the end of the day, still the Civ that has got, you know, the flamethrower boat that no one wants to build. That tends to get stomped on every time. Before this is the expected part now, right? That you go Bog Maffer. I was a little bit surprised when he'd done this, but he did wait until he saw the Horseman, if I remember correctly. Because we have Spearman production from Vortex. The cool thing for him, like this is where it's like, it's impressive the way that Wham's trying to navigate this, because it's not easy, is he's going every different production building type. And the reason that's a little bit tricky against Macedonians is the more you branch out, the better they kind of feel. Because although their transitions are expensive in terms of the raw units, because they build the Varangian strongholds, they already have the production line to shuffle across onto the other thing. Had one vill on gold when silver increased. We can check that back. What's that? Oh, you're right. This is going to be hard to prove now. Because he's not going to stop gathering gold at this point. Like, at this point, he needs gold because he's going to go for a tech up, right? Or even if you want to stay the age, now his goal is to make his Bog Maffer, his archers, as good as possible, which means he needs to gather silver. Ergo, you will be on gold. But Vortex, it's interesting that he found himself kind of leaning towards mass melee more than archer. And I know people are kind of going to be curious, why would you do that? The interesting thing is you kind of lose out long term if you scale archers, right? Like, you want them in there, they're part of the comp, but it's not one of those builds where Macedonians are going to just build 30 archers and then have a few cavalry and then build Radari. Because, like, the tricky part there is, like, your archers are going to be facing off against very powerful ones. The Abbasid ones already have a comparative health pool while being cheaper. And remember, your opponent also has got a better economy because of the Golden Age. But then to add poison into the lumpy milk, you will get completely washed away by the composite bows. Like, the composite bows are where you just get absolutely destroyed. What's up, Crackety?
Who is this Tapper Neo 4 streamer?
It's Wham. Oh, yeah, you mean that one, right? How's it going, buddy? So yeah, to the point, and thank you, Crackety. The interesting thing with these archers is, like, legitimately you just can't get sucked too hard into just being about raw range mass, I think, against Wham. Because he can just completely clap your cheeks with his own composite bows. It's like a very interesting dynamic, actually, because basically, like, if you can force your opponent into armored units, Macedonians are kind of low-key crazy with their archers, right? Due to the penetration. But if it becomes about lightly armored units at all, then the Basses wash you away with just composite bows down the line. There is pub? Yeah, dude, this tournament took place in Britland. There's pubs everywhere. I will say actually, like one thing, my experience being there in London, it was kind of like this at all the Red Bull events. Is like, and it was understandable with Spain because whatever, it's like Spain. It's very hard to know where to go. I wish there was like a little bit more clarity on where the Red Bull fans and the Age of Empires fans and the communities were going to go after the games finished for the day. Because I found myself scrambling, which is my own fault because I hadn't really organized ahead of time. But like, there was no way to kind of like just know. You know what I mean? I say that about the more recent ones because, like, at least with, it's one of the sad things. Like, Gamer Legion in some ways womped out in a really crappy way, right? Because like they were meant to do a really big AoE 2 LAN and then they just didn't do it. They were focused on Counter-Strike instead. But they did do some cool things to the scenes, like organizing the pub meetups, and they had like the after party that they organized for Red Bull Legacy, if you guys remember, in the big bar. So like, you know, it'd be nice to have more people in the scenes for these events that are actually organizing those things and then broadcasting out to people. Because Red Bull had watch parties, right? But I mean, like, it's the after party type thing. Because I don't know if you guys know this, like, Red Bull doesn't do after parties. So, because I've been in esports since 2018, and there's a lot of, like, after partyage around there. But they stopped doing it alongside a few other producers as well, to be honest, when COVID happened. And it hasn't come back since. So, little clash coming in here, but inevitably the tech up is going to be the goal on both sides. This game gets nuts, by the way. I tweeted out about this game because this game can, in the end, be summarized, was won by a single guy. You'll see. But this is a little bit rough, right? Gets caught away from home because he wanted pressure onto the east side of the map, and now ultimately gets punished and forced all the way home, gets caught in his tech up, and it gets much worse than that when you know your opponent has to be going for Knights. What I love, and I believe we see it in a second, is Wham also has the foresight to add in a Camel Rider in this game, I believe it was. And the reason that's immensely valuable is Camel Riders are very bulky, very tanky. They're not like a Camel Archer where they can be sniped as easily by archers. And then you just linger around as an aura to debuff the Ridari. So remember, Ridari should clap the cheeks of Knights. And there's that composite bows we talked about, right? This is the kind of scary factor of doing range versus ranged up against the Bassets. I think the reason we see Abassas just completely underutilized and disrespected a lot is because it feels appropriate to respect it because we've been in a Knight meta for a long time. And Abassas aren't really known for being good in Nightmares. You'd think they would be because of the Camel Riders. But the tricky thing is like scaling mass Camel Riders is very time consuming. It's not as expensive as Lancers, right? But the problem you run into is you're specializing while your opponent can be jack of all trading with Knights. And what I mean by that is like Camel Riders can eventually kill workers, but they're not that quick at doing it. It almost puts you in a position where sometimes you feel like you need the Horseman effect of I need 10 of these to truly trap and kill things. Love the forward walls. Wham gets so cheeky in this game, by the way. Like, I think the Canadians are some of the spookiest by far in Frisian Marches. They're very good at min-maxing what they can tap out of the map before being forced into something like a farm transition. We did see that backfire earlier on for Puppy Paw when he was up against Marine Lord on this particular map. But you see that they are kind of fearless in their approach to trying to actually squeeze every ounce of juice out of the map before going for infinite food. Demo ship just being prepped now. Wham could technically just build a ram to deal with this, but it feels really time-consuming at this stage when you've just got so much burn power. So he does go in for the burn down, and we'll get clipped on the demo ship, but luckily for him, most of the spears were inland, and this is the other thing. Boot camp makes you able to kind of shrug off a little of that. So what's happening right now? Like, size of things is a little bit weird because although Wham is scaling good army, if you look at the minimap, you can see a lot of his reinforcements are actually holding back but towards the sacred site, and some even over towards the berries as he was getting ready to secure that. In fact, he's now there. Genius move by him. This is what we meant about the way he leveraged the map and took the extra little food sources, because if you were to see Vortex's vision right now, because he got forced to do a Golden Horn Tower defensively towards his TC on the gold, it means he doesn't see the berries right next to his base. That is outrageous. And the amount of extra runway it gave Wham in this game was crazy. Yeah, does go for the ram in the end after the demo ship experience. And this is where Vortex got forced into more and more archers. But remember what we said about the Abbasid archers. The attack speed on them is kind of crazy. Vortex's spearmen should feel all but worthless. There is an argument for, you know, Wham just kind of like making more knights here. But remember, his food income isn't surging out of control yet. His goal here is just to get lots of cheap crap across to keep his opponent pinned in the corner so that Vortex's food income over time goes down. Nice pushback here. Wham gets maybe a little bit excited on the approach. Because the thing is now you're starting to push towards the Golden Horn Tower. And at this point, you're like, okay, where's the value point? The value point is meant to be the goal, but reaching it, much easier said than done. Especially with some of the pathing just drifting to the side. Does snipe out a few of the workers. But you start to see that damage coming from the Golden Horn Tower. And the stand ground in effect. So like now you're pushing into production, you're pushing into the Frantic Strongholds, the Golden Horn Tower. This is definition overextension. And Wham, you're going to be questioning, okay, what did Wham actually get out of this? He got more map control. Just look at the food income again. We're now up to 1.5k food. Meanwhile, Vortex got pressured, lost a few workers, and he hasn't moved out to his own deer source. So if he could reacquire some map control, it's huge for him. The other sick thing, I remember watching this Emma saying that was sick. I don't know if it was intended. Vortex, you saw that right there, those spearmen, they got rallied to the backside. They cut like, I think it was 10 troops were dancing around them a little bit. So there was extra troops missing, which means Wham's reinforcing line to try and reset this fight was more delayed. It gave additional breathing room to Vortex. But this is the beauty of economy in a game like this, right? Like, Wham has taken a really bad trade, but if you now look at the projected income for the next 2 minutes, you understand why he gets away with that. Part of this is going to be the Golden Age effect, but a big chunk of this is all that idle time in Vortex's own base, and also the idle time of moving out to new food sources. And we're going to focus a lot on food sources, because food sources is ultimately what makes the difference in this game. Has the deer here, but look at the other deer sources. Like, you can already see Wham is moving out to his pack. So this is a point where, like, for Vortex, it would be nice to actually go and roam and patrol and look for that. Issue is, if you look at his army comp, he doesn't have many knights, and he also doesn't have the ability to leave his army alone while his knights go scouring. Because you've already seen your opponent has archers to clear your spears, it means you'd have 0 front line. And we already talked about how the archers of Abbasid should feel really good against the archers of Macedonians. Not impossible for a Macedonian player to win with Great Micro. You'd have to have the Radari champion and runestones. You could technically eke out the edge range advantage, but it's very difficult to maintain. And there's that research. Remember, this is also Abbasid spears, so they've got the extra attack range. It just means that a lot more of them get engaged. You even start to see that concave coming through. And love the micro. Wham's just so on point, going for that back line of archers. Clearing them much quicker. You just see what I mean about composite bows. It's so good. You ever watch games of Abbasids and you see composite bows and you're like, how has this actually not been nerfed? And then you remember how bad it looks when it's knights only or something like that. It is a very situational tech, but when you find that situation, it can completely break a game. And it's funny because it's also something you just don't see as often at the moment. Now, this is key. This is crazy what's about to happen down here. So we're reaching the point now where Vortex is fast, just sticking that straw into the food, sucking it all up, and you can hear that kind of like of an empty cup starting to occur. That's happening with the berries at home. That's going to start happening to the deer in like the next minute. And this is a crucial point. Wham has once again put himself on the edge of the base. He hasn't put himself in a position where he needs to go into the base. And he's starting to understand that. And finally, Vortex realizes the cheeky git has been here all along. He is going to look to just clear that up, but he's got big problems here. There it is. We finally get it like highlighted. That's the final deer about to be absorbed, and then he has to move. This is a very dangerous point in the game because Wham has been looking for targets with knights. Case and point. That guy right there, you're going to want to keep an eye on because he has got a legacy to carve that will be told by his ancestors for generations to come. Toxic experimental placements coming in. I like that inclusion because it actually kind of forces Vortex to have to fight there because otherwise he won't have gold. His ancestors? Sorry, his offspring. There we go, my brain. And here you go, watch the minimap. They're on the move now. This is disgusting what happens here. This knight is patrolling. This knight sees nothing. Meanwhile, distraction happening for both players. They have to be fixated on this. So Dive comes in. Very tanky outpost, but he has got the burn power. Courtesy of actually having that Hippodrome Scout allows him to blitz through it. But it now allows Wham to get kind of a favorable trade, army-wise. He once again forces the idol, but you want to keep an eye on that mini-map. In fact, it should be going over in view there soon because something crazy is about to pop. This is just simply denial of resources on both sides. One can't get food, one can't get gold. The deciding factor actually comes down to something that one of Vortex's units does. Here we go. What do you think happens here that gives it away? Watch closely. That night, he stops. Now watch the monk. The monk gives him away. If it wasn't for the monk bringing the relic home, Wham would not have seen that deer until he took a serious look and went, oh, the deer have disappeared, which could have been 2 or 3 deer later. It could have been 1,000 food extra in the bag for Vortex. And this is where the panic starts to set in this game. This is the decisive moment, really. Now the knight's in. He forces those hits. He forces the idle time. And you know this is where Vortex has a difficult decision. Do I defend my base where I've got villagers exposed on the gold? Do I now send troops over? And I talked to Vortex about this, and the worst enemy of him in this game wasn't even just that monk. It was the select all army. He meant to send just a few troopers over, and he ends up sending the whole army back, then panicking, bringing them back again with select all army, then accidentally sending the villagers back to work, and then it just starts to snowball from there because, once again, you're sucked into a fight. But this is the difference that Vision makes, right? This could have been a game, crazily enough, like, to put it in a weird way, if Vortex had been playing less optimal, i.e. he wasn't going relics, he might have got away with that entirely. That's crazy to think about. And yeah, from here, it just gets worse and worse, right? We've got the second group of villagers coming in because he was selecting, I think, all villagers who are idle or whatever, and he dragged the second group, and then he's just running across again. And finally, he pills one Ridari, but at this point, the idle damage is huge, and it gets worse. Wait for this. Because that Ridari, if I remember correctly, this select all army I was talking about, I think it stops killing this guy, I think he said. On 1 HP, or did he finish it? No, I think he does. Okay, yeah, so he gets it out of the way in the end, but at this point, your opponent knows. He's seen it. He's seen more villages. He's going to head over there with the knights, and that's just going to be the GG point. This game was decided by that sequence of events. One knight, one monk to decide the outcome of a critical game. That's kind of crazy, right? And then from here, you're just kind of in the death cycle. Because your food income, if you guys have been paying attention to it in the corner, top corner, it went from like 1,400 down to 12, 1,100, 800, now down to 520. This is GG point. And Wham impressed me, man. Like, at this point, my jaw was kind of hitting the floor. Like, I always saw the potential Wham had, but Vortex felt like he was meant to be the boogeyman. Wham really leveled up his gameplay. And, you know, we heard later that, like, obviously him and Marine Lord have been scrimming together a lot because they were on opposite sides of the bracket, so it just makes sense. That's the person you should be practicing with as much as possible. I don't know. Wait, Vortex... So he built transport ships to try and hide his villages. Ambitious idea, but yeah, at this point, like, the damage is really done. And now it's just kind of a slow siege in. Sacred sites have been locked in. Wham still has got a lot of food on the map. It's just, you know, unfortunate Vortex couldn't find a way to try and sneak out towards a boar so he'd have his own lifeline. I don't know if it really would have made enough of a difference because you're just so exposed. But, like, overall, really, really great game by Wham. Freya, get your big nips out. What are you doing? What have you done to my green screen? What? Freya, you've broken everything. I don't even know how you've done that. Oh my god. Sorry, guys. That looked terrible. What? Alright, which one's going to win, Frey? Blue or red?
I think blue.
You think blue or red? Those are the options. Which one's going to win?
I'm going to choose red.
You chose poorly. Alright, maybe next time. Go play, Donald. Oh my god. She's got roller skates on, so she's probably going to hurt herself. I'm a little bit worried about that. Yep, bye, Frey. Yeah, I know you were falling down the skates. I don't know why you keep getting in them. But yeah, Vortex, he knows he has to make some sort of punt out. I think Wham had started adding in farms by now, so like he's in the comfort phase of the game for sure. And more huge idle time, right? Now shifting back, because I think he was over there towards the wood line, comes back towards the deer again. But like now you're in a tricky situation. You've got mass archers, which is very linear, and you have to defend both the south side and north side of the map. Remember what we said, cavalry is your best friend for that reason. What, Frey? Okay, you need to hurry up though, because you're meant to be playing outside. Mummy should be watching.
Scream, you know. Try to open to our tribe. So side the bike.
Okay, yeah, subscribe.
Yeah. That's why I tell them now.
Good girl. All right, you go play now. All right, say goodbye to stream.
No, that, yeah.
Freya, you don't like watching this game that much.
I do. I like to watch the octopus game so much.
Oh, we'll have to do the octopus game another day.
Yeah.
Yeah, big clash coming in here, but this is the worst case scenario. This is your nightmare fuel we talked about. You're now up against composite bow archers. There's no way Bogmather should win that fight ever. So that's what I meant about it was kind of over early. It's like once Vortex couldn't afford anything really raw archers, he was kind of down the drain. Yes, Freya.
You know, them toys that was in here, them stuffy toys, was from my cousin, and we was just attending.
Yeah, it was yours for your birthday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Why don't you go play with those toys?
Ah.
Yeah.
Ah.
Go, I want you to go jump on Mummy and say, Mummy, wake up.
Why?
Because. Yeah, 6 minutes on the sacred site. I mean, at this point, Vortex is kind of looking for Hail Mary. We see as like the next minute goes on, like the food income continues to shrink a bit, and he doesn't have any farms set up. And we do have the pinpoint now. But I love the way that Wham just kind of actually revitalized into farms. You can see the clusters on the south side, east side, and in his base to allow him to actually go back to raw night count, which is a really smart call because like infantry blob could have weaknesses here, especially against like springolds and choke points. But just raw upping into knights allows him to dive across the map and hunt for more. And there you go. The GG comes out. A win. Easy peasy for the Wham squad.
Easy.
All right, now you need to go play
How
now.
the series was gonna go
Freya,
yet.
come on.
Seems like Wham knew. He came in
No.
with a plan.
I tell you what, if you
Daddy's
are
gotta
in
work
shoes right now,
so that you
Abbasid
can play.
considered by many to be
What?
not
What?
progressive,
You're not
would
comfortable
be
on my
able to
lap,
win on the
darling.
board against
You're getting too big.
Macedonia. Granted, it's Frisians,
Yeah.
it's a weird kind of
You're in
situation,
6 to
but
7-year-old
he made
clothing
Abbasid look good, which
while
is
being 4 years old.
I'm not damn old. I'm decent.
Yeah, you're 4 old.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said.
So, you know, I really want to go on your yacht.
What?
No, I like really to go on your yacht. So, I like to go on
Okay, you can go on my lap later though.
your yacht.
Because Trey, you're also making me bloody hot.
No.
You're like a radiator.
What?
What? Alright, I'm going to take you to Mummy. Be right back in a sec stream. Come on. Whoa. Careful. You watch with Mummy. Alright, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. Ugh. Yeah, kind of, I can't have her sitting on my lap for very long at the moment because
But once he had some
it's,
answers, he was glad to
like,
pick them
I'm,
with
you know,
the-
I've got someone going on with that. Like, it hurts a lot, so. Have to tell her no. Alright. Which is better to counter late game Mass Chuk Nu, Mangoes or Archers? Mangoes is like the more obvious, right? I think either can work. Both can be micro-intensive in different ways. And what's up, Entourage? That is a name I have not seen in a while, bud. How you doing? There's big things going on for you. I'm glad to see it, man. Hope you've been well. We'll have to catch up sometime. But yeah, in fairness, like in late game against Chug, just go armored units, whether it's light cav or heavy cav, or men-at-arms is probably a lot easier. But if you're talking range stuff, I think with silk bowstrings, archers can be easy peasy. Okay, so here we go. We're into game number 3. HRE versus Ottomans. This is like the first time where I don't want to say it's like an outright raw advantage only for Otto, but like Ottomans have a lot of good things here. HRE on this map, I think Minework is such a delicious, nutritious, powerful kick to the nuts of your opponent. But the problem you run into here is that a lot of the goodness of Minework gets offset simply by the Ottomans having a guy that bangs a drum. Imagine how that feels. You're going into the battlefield. You feel like you're going to beat everyone. And then a guy simply banging a drum decides the outcome more than anything else. It's a pretty sucky position to be in, right? And that tends to happen a lot with these melee blob strats, which is what HRE Minework would be all about here. I've also seen a surprising amount of players go for the Aachen on this map, actually. So I'm curious which way Wham is going to lean. Considering it is Ottomans, I would expect him to be going towards the Aachen. And Vortex obviously goes to that early spear push, just a very beneficial thing to do. You pay less for your racks. And also, like, against HRE strats, like, they're either what? Maybe they're thinking fast cast and get knights, you want some spears anyway. This also can pivot them into archers, which is a nice, desirable thing to do. One of the things that's always made Ottoman Dark Age rushes feel nice isn't just the price of a mission and certain quirks like healing. It's the fact that forcing your opponent to go into archers as the next move isn't bad. If they're going into archers, that means that you can then very simply just go into the best like cavalry in Age of Empires 4. What's the hate? And yeah, he does go on. So you just heard it from the caster there, by the way. Like, they were kind of like an Aachen. Like, they were shocked. But this is what I mean. Is like, Minework, it can be good for the archer timings around Steel Arrow and Undermesh. But that means your first few units have to do a lot. And I think that's what Wham's worried about. Whereas Aachen is at least going to give you more of a very limited resource on the map. With the sheep and the deer and the gold. And if he shoves in the deer, pretty good there as well. But, like, I kind of see what Wham's thought process is. That Minework just feels like you're setting up for melee armor to just destroy you completely. So Corvinus trying Light Cav and it just wasn't working. What, against Chuk Nu? Yeah, but what was the tech situation, I guess, would be my argument there. And also the environment. Like, if you're playing... So to that point, like, if you're open battlefield, then Horsemen or whatever can destroy Chuk in the late game. But if you are in choke points, that's where Mangonels would probably feel a lot better. Because you're forcing your opponent to cluster. If they're clustered, it's just a giant rock that's going to crush 5 guys instead of 1. I'm wondering if it would have been worth Wham outposting the front side, actually, instead of to react to all what's happening. Because I think the deer... Did they get lamed before you shoved them in? Because he may have actually sent his scout across at the beginning to scout the rush coming. Instead of shoving his deer in. Because remember, deer shoving is really slow now. Although if there was any player in this tournament that was going to do it, like Wham, Puppy Paw, those are the guys. They love deer shoving even after all the nerfs. So we have got the feudal... Oh, we can use some fast forwarding, actually. We should do that. So he does go for double... He goes archery racks. And you have to. Remember what we said? If you just go for the archers to counter out the spears, you're going to lose the Sipahi as soon as Vortex pumps them, which you assume is going for them almost immediately. The reason being is, like, map control is quite critical on this map, I'd say. The thing you have to remember is on front range, you don't have much in your starting location. You've got tiny tree lines, you've got tiny golds, you have very limited sheep. So every single resource that you want and need is out on the map. So we did see Vortex starting to move on a stone, just set up the military schools, which I believe should be coming through momentarily. And I think he got the info quite early, right? I also love the fact he used his Dark Age control to start securing the top map side. Like, getting your hands on these outposts is a critical element in the mid-game. Multiple reasons, right? Spots when raids are going to be coming through, but also, more important than that, it usually gives you a tip-off of when your opponent is thinking about gold or food up there. Because even if you don't see villagers going out there, if you see him decapping them, that's a red alert happening right there in your brain. It's like, why would you take that unless you are planning to go there soon? And we do have the Sipahi now getting layered in. Wham, of course, now going to be moving towards the boar, which we had to assume is going to be happening. The thing you have to remember is he could go for the deer, but the deer is kind of the same distance away as the boar, right? So it's kind of a pick your poison type moment. And this at least puts your economy or military in the same location towards your opponent's base. Unfortunately, this was a critical moment. He missed the fact he was being hit. There was no pings happening at this stage. Yeah, so he ends up losing 3 villages on the gold. At 6.5 minutes in the game, that is a catastrophic difference. Now, he has at least got the board to pad himself a little bit. But remember, on top of that, he's already an extra villager behind. He did go for the second prelate to buff the boar, despite the fact he went for the Arhan. Right? So, like, there's a lot of conflicting details here. But once again, I think this comes down to the matchup. If this had been almost any other Civ, I could see a world in which, logically, you just say, yeah, Minework is too good to not go here. I can at least empathize with why Wham didn't want to go for the aggressive landmark. Well, the casters at RB did a good job. Dimu's high-level analysis was particularly interesting. I must admit, you were sorely missed. I appreciate that, man. I think everyone brings something different. You know, my hopes is at the end of the year, like, right now, like, everything that happened around it really sucks, man. And it will, like, you know, in retrospect, it'll always suck that everything happened how it happened, and it'll always be a heartbreak moment, I think, for me. But my goal is to find new cool things, bigger things, better things to do. There was no ill will at all from anyone at Red Bull or between me and the casters or anything like that, which is good. Because I didn't want there to be anyway. But, like, yeah, it'll always be, like, it's one of those things, like, you know, when you miss out on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, really. And, yeah, there's definitely things I would have done different to what a Winston or a Dimu does, but that's literally every caster. No caster is the same, and that's not a bad thing. Everyone has a different print. But they've done a great job. Especially considering I don't think Dimu and Winston have ever cast together before. So, Vortex, he's put Wham in a tricky situation now. You just saw the Imam point coming out. This is what makes Ottomans feel so good on aggressively based maps. It's now going to force Wham even harder into archers so he can deprive the Imam effect. And of course, as we've seen from many people in the past, when you do this against Ottomans, you're going down the rabbit hole they want you to. If you're having to add in additional archers, that means they can add in additional Sipahi. This has always been the tricky part about healing elements, is like anytime you think about healing, think about how you deal with healing and how obvious it is how you have to deal with healing. There's technically 2 ways, but the most reliable, consistent across the board is build range units. The other way is build heavy base damage units, such as knights. But not every Civ can do that in Age 2. So that very much limits a lot of Civs in their reaction to healing play. And that, at the highest level, is an insane advantage that the best in the game will milk to the max. We see it the same with Iobids and the Dervish play all the time. Like, when you go Dervish, you kind of know what your opponent has to do. He either bypasses you in a castle or basically has to start thinking about archers. Nice radium Sipahi. I mean, if he lost 3 villages to 2 spearmen, I don't know what he's going to end up losing to those light cav. Because remember, Sipahi with the fortitude melt through anything. A little bit of counter raid, offensive coming from Wham, but it's neglectful. It's negligent. It doesn't really do anything here by comparison. I think his goal is just to try and force a little bit of idle time. But Vortex, it looks like he's just prepping for that big push coming in he's expecting. Which makes a lot of sense. At this stage, he's a few villages ahead. There is the conundrum of the boar factor that you always have to contest with, yes. But there's realistically on a map like this, you're not really expecting your opponent to just raw rush Castle Age when you're blobbing Sipahi. Like, actually, Ottomans is probably one of the best Civs in the game at punishing these greedy fast tech plays. They were a vital counter to Japan when they were doing these kind of like just fast castle naked builds. Because by the time they're teching up, you could have 8, 9, 10 Sipahi and the drummer boy. And that was enough to just dive. You have to remember, like, ranged armor toggled on, undermesh, Sipahi's natural ranged armor. You don't care about defenses. So Wham's walls are coming in now. I think the idea behind this is, like, obviously you've been hit on the back. It's hurt you really hard already. He can't afford to have units left at home at this stage. Because although the army size is with Wham, the army quality is most definitely with Vortex. These are the best light cav in the game. Like, always emphasize that. Then you have to think about the meta, which luckily for him, Vortex does seem to be missing right now. Hasn't queued it up for free inside one of the schools. and doesn't have it in active production from the stables. One of the big problems, and you're seeing it now, Wham is 11.5 minutes in and has not got tempo on his side because he doesn't have blacksmiths. That is an insane difference maker. When Undermesh is already now coming in and Vortex already has Steeled Arrow, this could be the prime time to fight for him, right? Because if you're Wham, even with a double outpost defense, it's not like you have E repairs to buff them up. It's not like you have fire armor because you've got fortification. That isn't there. It's not as rigid or strong as a position as you think when your opponent with Undermesh can just dive in with 10 plus Sapahi. And there's the drummer boy as well. Did he go for the Vizier point? I think he did in this game. Because it wasn't there a second ago. So it just tells you this is all about that specific timing. Like, what is Wham looking for at this stage? He's looking to just buy time. He needs this to be delayed. Because also, like, the blacksmith now being in the middle of the map does give an exposure point where if you forfeit this area, or if your opponent hard commits, he could actually deny the technologies that you desperately need here. And Vortex, seeing what's happening here, look at his reaction now. Just prepping for the castle. I like this play. You know, the reality is from, like, Wham's position, he's... I don't want to say bent over a barrel, but in like an uncomfortable position food-wise. He has got the deer in the corner, but he wants to exploit these boar, these deer. But that means you're tapping resources on the front end of the map. You can't necessarily just tech while doing that, right? Because your opponent can easily posture without risking himself and see whether you're teching or playing the Age. Seriously, the healing on this. I've been away for 2 months. I come back and I still... I'm baffled by healing in AoE4. That whole army just freshly rejuvenated. I mean, Wham can achieve similar, but remember for him it's tricky because his prelates are going to heal one at a time, whereas those imams, you know, if you've got 50 units that have lost 20 health, those imams are going to heal all of them at the same time. The scaling potential of that is so powerful. And Mohamed now coming in. The concern now is like Wham's going to be in a reactionary tech point unless he can find an attack point. He has got the ponies kind of roaming around north side, but Vortex isn't really doing anything that demands a lot of gold right now. Like going into castle could open that door, but he could also just focus on non-gold based units. What's up, Kenyo? Appreciate the prime sub, buddy. Welcome to Swarm. Thank you, thank you. Wham now knows. So, what's going through Wham's mind at this point? I think the obvious thing is like, is it a Burgrave or is it a Regnitz? Could you Burgrave? I mean, you've got a lot of spears. If you add in like 10 men at arms, it's kind of crazy here. There's still the concern of melee armor. I think with your position on the map as well, Regnitz just kind of seems like the most desirable. Like your opponent is pinned in his base right now while you're getting ready to tech. So you could use this to vacuum up, and he already has the additional prelates to allow for this. Problem is, the counteroffensive is going to be fast. Vortex already has the Steeled Arrow as well as the Veterancy coming in on his Sapahi, and he's already looking to push. He understands the timing, because he can show up early and force Wham away from the sources. So now Wham, like this is the tricky thing on this map. This map, I don't think it's very inviting to people that hide in corners often. It feels tricky to just back off of the map like this, unless you are at the point where you've already tapped double ball, which he has not. So you can see he's already hiding next to the Regnitz with the deer, with the berries there. But now, with the way that HRE looks to thrive in Castle, you're starting to think about gold-based units. Like, you can vet up what you've got here, but realistically, I think HRE is probably going to want men-at-arms or knights. That's a lot of gold influx. Whereas with Vortex, as long as it's got the food, I don't think it's crazy to just say, go Sapahi still here. Wham. A stab at the back. Warlords to keep him honest, and the dive to the north side. He finds it perfectly. This is what I talked about. At the very beginning, do you guys remember I mentioned that outpost? It matters now. That outpost is game deciding. You have to respect the vision on front range. And taking that away seems simple in your brain, but when you're being pressured all the time like Wham is, he couldn't. He couldn't come back and just decap that. It's too much idle time. And if he decaps it when he needs to, it's too obvious of a play. So Vortex just now has him bent over the barrel. Wham isn't really paying attention to what's happening. He finally realizes it pulls away, but by then, it's GG. Sipahi are like sharks in a fish tank. They will eat every single little fish in there and then break the tank entirely.
No point in the game do I feel that Hatchery is feeling comfortable. And you saw that.
And in we go. Game number 4, and it goes to Boldland with a Golden Horde pick. Golden Horde has been intriguing to me to watch, actually. I think Golden Horde is like a very polarizing civ in the way that it functions compared to others in the game at the moment. And it continues to be so as new strategies get discovered. The cool thing in theory about this game was like Vortex's Tuklak. This was meant to be a specialist pick for him. He's a big believer in Tuklak on land. But, as was said out of the mouths of the players, they didn't feel like they played good on this land. And this game may be the creme de la creme to prove that. Not my words, based on how they felt after this game. So, Tuklak, why would you pick Tuklak on this land map of all land maps in particular? Boardland is an interesting one because it's about cavalry. Most maps in AoE 4 at the moment, the meta is about cavalry, but this one, in a lot of ways, because the thing you have to remember is you are not safe. You don't have a big fat tree line. You don't have necessarily an easily wallable place. The corner doesn't always have the highest value. This is a weird game, actually, because Vortex hit a jackpot. He got double berries there, which is great for Tuklak. But, like, look at the comparison. Wham got wood, and that's it. It's not great. Food sources, not great either. A lot of them exposed. Pro Scouts has been nerfed, dragging that home, not as valuable anymore. And the spread of food on the map takes you top to bottom. So this all screams cav, 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 cav. Even the starting tree lines scream dive me. You guys played Himiyama before. Borderland isn't on the ladder, right? But like Himiyama is. And you guys have had that experience where you're vibing, and then all of a sudden night just is on your villagers on the tree line. That happens here all the time. In fact, intentionally, by design, I think Kavai said before, like one of the tree lines is just in range of the TC, but obviously going to be out of range quick. The other one is not in range. So it's designed in a way that you will be pressured there rapidly. KP back? Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think the thing I'll keep reiterating to people is like, you know, whether it's Palmer Stay. I mean, dude, I love this game. Like, I think that's always been clear. But got to figure out a way that it all mathematically makes sense. A lot of people, let's just say, Emma, my mum, a lot of people I met in London asking me, begging me to come back. You can thank them. They were the ones that convinced me to give it one more try. So thank you to them. So Karnan Thoragud is coming in. This is pretty much the norm. I think like it's so weird. The production buildings seem cool in theory. It just never seems to find its appropriate setting. I think there's probably one or two maps where you could actually go for the alternative Golden Horde landmark. Socotra might be one of them. Because on Socotra, it's such a small map that having those two production buildings immediately available to pump could be good. The problem is often you have to wait a very long time for them to build so you can do things with them. And that's polarizing, right? Like, compare that to civs that can build a military landmark and then they're producing units straight away, right? So, like, compared to most civs, when it comes to that military surge, it's a different style. If you go for the 2 tents that you can put into production buildings, military production, or whatever else you want, it's going to take you 30 seconds plus, but then you'll have 2 different types of units to produce straight away. The alternative is, and what really thrives for a lot of civs, is this idea of I can build my landmark and then immediately produce a valuable unit, like a knight. Nice little hit in here. Final stab. Doesn't quite get it. So, and the reason that's important, by the way, is like, while having access to 2 unit types does seem really cool, the problem you have there is that by having 2 different unit types, that puts more strain on my economy early on. I'm jack of all trading. We're at a stage in the game early on where jack of all trading isn't necessarily good. It has its moments, but on a broad perspective, you know, having just more horsemen or having just knights is going to feel better before your opponent has his whole kit together. So yeah, very, very weird landmark. I still think that Golden Horde's landmarks need a little bit of reassessing. Because right now, it almost feels like the only way you're going to do the production thing is if you're doing a fast castle build. And Golden Horde meta really doesn't support too much fast castling at the moment, especially because with the, well, I'd say not much fast casting the style, which would be Relic Uvus, because Relic Uvus is the type of landmark that also feels like it needs you to be teching ahead. So not going to say it's ever impossible, but yeah, I think Golden Horde, compared to quite a few civs at the moment, do feel a bit railroaded on their techs, but refreshingly do have some strategies differing when it comes to military. So we talked about this being a map about cavalry. That's exactly what we're seeing. We've already got the elephants coming out from Tuklak, and it is being responded by the Torgud. Torgud should be capable of mince-meeting the Raider elephants. The curious part is going to be... Oh, he went Tower Victor. I was about to say, there's no way there's healer anymore, right? Because healing would be frustrating. TOV is a pretty sick detail, actually. Because Raider elephants are as tanky as Torgud, essentially. But now, with the attack speed buffer, they could be a bigger threat. And we were able to see the stone being gathered. So remember, for Vortex, a really big part of making Tuklak work on land is about these castle drops. So he needs that first castle drop at home. But something catastrophic is going to hit in this game. It's going to be a tearjerker. Because right now, you can see what the strat is. Because the first 4 in range of the tree lines and the TC should make it harder to dive. Wham won't even try. Spears guard it nicely. But he's already layered the houses. You guys notice that? He could have probably actually shifted it a bit further back, but I think he wanted the drop-off location and the protection anyway. So with that there, he'll be able to choose the governor of, I believe it's Bakar, which will give you food for every house or farm next to a castle. A good injection, actually. I think it's like 16, 18 food on level 1. Maybe 14. And it scales up, right? You just keep gathering stone, you get it high, you get more infinite food. It's a great idea for a map like this in particular, because of how exposed a lot of the food sources are, like we talked about. That being said, like, he does have the perfect corner. It's just I don't think he wants to waste time on wood walling right now. And you know your opponent's going to be going cavalry, so you'd have to wood wall to get out there. But there you go. Tier 1 already coming in. This is going to increase the governor effects you'll be able to get. There's something bad happening right now, though, I'm afraid. Do you guys know what it is? There's something heartbreaking for Vortex in this game. And he realized that afterwards, too. Has anyone seen a governor be selected? The whole strat revolves around the idea of a castle drop into resource injection, because if you get the food rolling early, you're paying back the castle quickly, right? You're essentially transferring stone into food, but that food is infinite, so it will pay over time anyway. Has got some Raider elephants coming through. This is great. Vortex is trying to keep a little pressure, but he's not getting his economical advantage now. That's pretty damning. And it gets more damning when you realize that Vortex intends to keep investing in the castle. Look at the stone again. He just took another tier. So while the observer's looking over here, like, if you go check that castle, which I would open the game and do it, but basically, the reason we're watching this instead of just watching in-game is all the data is private, so we couldn't look at it. But this was crazy, man. Like, he's already gathering on the second stone outcropping on the south side, but he's putting those upgrades back into the main base. And this would be a great investment if it was a governor selected, because then you're essentially investing to protect an economy source. Instead, it's just dead weight. There we go. Because I remember correctly, you always say the signs over them to tell you that, like, there's a governor. So when if we get to look at Vortex's goal, we should see it. Because I remember, bless him, like, yeah, look. Do you guys see a sign? Not a good look. To make matters worse, you know, he notices there's more stone gathering going on, these berries. So an extra keep's going to come up. And you're going to be like, okay, so this would be the point where, like, Vortex remembers that he doesn't have any governor on the castle, right? You would think so, but the thing you have to remember is, like, even if you're thinking about a second castle drop, you're not necessarily checking the last one. So it's the same way of, like, a wheelbarrow type effect, where, you know, if you don't do it in the instinctive moment, it's easy to forget about entirely. So yeah, pretty obvious, I think, to Wham by now that the Vortex is up to something. Like, he's seen the tech levels already on the castle, but he's not seeing more military. And he beats him to the tech timing. Muscovy Yasak on the way. And remember what we said about Relic Uvus? Technically, this is a situation where Wham could have considered Relic Uvus, but the gap wouldn't be as big as you think, because remember, Golden Horde is like a worse version of Abasses when it comes to teching. Because look at the House of Lightning. 45 seconds versus 76. If he had gone for Relic Uvus, he'd still be 30 seconds behind on even thinking about relics. It's such a weird landmark, man. In theory, it's ridiculously powerful. But the boxes you have to tick to make Golden Horde feel good for Relic Uvus is tricky. Whereas Muscovy Yasak, it's going to be sick when he's up against all these static defenses. Remember, that's going to give him the plus armor on all of his armored units, i.e. Men-at-Arms, Keshiks, Tortugud, meaning he will be able to dive Vortix's static defense strategy. And you see it. This is heartbreaking right here. Down there, the Z to select. He does not have a governor. 11 minutes in. He's had this for a few minutes now. He was clearly meant to pick Bakar, right? He's built the houses around it. And at this point, like, he's fully tiered it up, right? So he's missing out 28 times, I think 6. I think the 7th one is in range. So, my brain. It's like 170 food a minute he's missing out on. Look at his food income right now. 340. This is heartbreaking. But, you know, this is the thing. We can sit here and we can kind of popcorn this and easy clap, like, understand it. Put yourself in the perspective of the players. They're on stage. You know, they're adjusting to each other. They don't know what each other's strategy is going to be. It's an intense moment. Potentially a deciding game here. You're just not clocking it because it's all flow. We talked about how, like, Vortex has this habit of skipping villager production because Agent Myth got him used to it. Instinctual baseline underlying habits. Subconscious habits decide games more often than not. And when you build a fort, you're meant to select a governor. If you forget to select a governor, just like we've all done with Wheelbarrow before, you're not looking back. This right here, what was the prize pool for AoE4? Was it 40k, 50k? I can't remember. This is like, this governor is worth thousands of dollars, and he just ain't turning up for his job. It's a heartbreaking way to lose a game. Vortex, he knew it. I talked to him after this, and he knew it. He's like, the governor, man, the governor. I was heartbroken for him. Because Tughlaq on land is not a custom fort. Most people think about it for the sea. We didn't even get to see what this build's potential is going to be because of that critical error. Embrace your heart. Hey, sup, Camian? Appreciate the 5 gifted, mate. Thank you very much. Hope you're having a good day. If this is as bad as when Luciferon went 2TC Abram Phrygium without fresh foodstuffs, oh, this feels worse. Like, the investment logic difference feels... Because at least then you've got a second TC and you're getting more villages, right? They'll pay back. Here, he's built all these tiers to the castle, and it's not even a good castle to protect additional resources now. Like, there's nothing here, right? There's, like, the gold, but then the wood. It's getting out of range. There's so much value to be had on resources, at least, if the castle drop is, like, on a 8k gold vein or the big tree line. Then he released, like, oh, it's a defensive castle to get resources. Like, no, this was all about the monetary value. And it doesn't exist. And yeah, gets caught with this as well. Like, this outpost, big outpost, like, it's a small castle, right? Wham now knows about it as a target, but, like, for him, I think the thing I didn't ask Wham is if he realized. Because I'm not imagining this right. Like, you always see the symbols above the castle. Wait, no, the banners, rather. The banners. Yeah, sorry, the banners. Which we just saw with the other castle. So he would be able to see that and know. I didn't ask Wham if he realized at the moment, but if he did, and there you go. He now has Bakar. But this took 6 minutes? 7 minutes? I think he got it like 12 or 13 minutes in. So, like, mathematically, if you had to rough it out at that point, he's missed out on, like, what? 700-800 food, maybe? Maybe more? Must be. Like, way more, right? Way more. Like, considering the tier timing, because he rushed it. It's not like a slow passive game. It was a rush intent. It's heartbreaking, man. But at least he has it now, right? At least you can see potential. What's the negatives to think about here, though? You've got your Whirlwind coming in, and you have got TOV. Your opponent has realized it straight away, though. And this is where crossbow massman becomes big. I think the tricky thing at this stage in the game for Vortex is like, he probably feels like what he should have had is maybe like 2 extra War Elephants, and you have a pretty scary push timing there, even against spears. Right now, 15 spears against like 3 War Elephants with crossbows already following up does feel a little bit shaky. And the nature of like the map, remember what we said, there's not much in the corner. He's tapping that now, so he's already into his reserves with his berries. Afterwards, he needs to start thinking about elsewhere in the map. Most importantly, needs the gold, but what a pin, what a pinch. Wham just read straight through it. Like, you'd think this many archers would be scary. It gets in on the dive. In terms of exchange, like, that one wasn't terrible. You killed probably about 7 or 8 spearmen, and I think 3 Tortugud. That's actually mathematically a pretty good exchange for Vortex. But it's all about, like, critical mass count now, right? It's like, you got some value out of your spears that are always going to be bad as the game went on because of the archers. And now Wham is getting into his mass crossbows. And the problem for Vortex, we've all been there. Some of you are filthy War Elephant builders. The moment you start building War Elephants, what can you no longer do in a game of AoE4 very well? It begins with R. It's not Re. You can happily do that, although you have no right to because you play War Elephants. We should be reading about you. It's Raid. War Elephants are atrocious raiders. They don't move fast enough to really do it. We've got a little bit of lag. On top of that, you can see, like, Wham, like, stone amount. He's already got the triple Uvu set up, so he's able to just get his hands on plenty of stone now to reacclimate into tech upgrades. Like, you're still a really long way off of going, for example, towards tier 3. Why are we lagging so much? Going towards the extra production, the batch production. But he can stop off for things like the food income, which would make a lot of sense now that he's adding in additional stockyards, as well as think about just getting a few extra cavalry units into raid. Will I cast Vortex vs. Lucy practice BO5? What, are they doing a BO5 now? Well, that could be cool. I mean, I'll leave it up to people whether they want me to cover the grand finals of this or something live if there is something live. Props to Vortex in this game, by the way. The fact that he was winning the relic race wasn't to be expected. But the scary thing that like sometimes you forget about is like what's happening here is like Wham is building crossbows, Tuklak from Vortex building archers. There is a little Karash detail that often gets forgotten. That is a really frustrating detail when you're building low base damage units. I gotta say though, like Vortex, the logic behind Land Tuklak, you can see it, right? When you think about what he has now, and then think about what he should have had if he had the governor timing, there is a lot of logic behind what Vortex has been trying to say about Land Tuklak. I'm sold on that. It's heartbreaking even more so because of that governor detail now. Because you could genuinely see the way in which this strategy could work. And Vortex now setting up additional stables. This was the Raider Elephant transition. What's interesting is that actually Wham, he can't go spears because of the archer count. He switches into horsemen. Little raids coming in, just a little bit of chip damage here and there. We have got additional upgrades coming in the castles, by the way. So, like, just trying to plump up his benefits, his advantages. But I believe this was just the second castle, right? That's the tech cost one. But there are still some techs to save on, but you can see he's already queued them up before he'd actually have the upgrade on the castle. So, like, he's not really been able to wait that out. Wow, with the crossbows. It's arching inwards, actually. That saved his bacon. Unfortunately, War Elephant is about to be cooked. I think one of the weird things about Tuklak War Elephants versus Delhi is you have to do something with them. You can't just have them get tickled, go away, heal. Right? Very big difference between Tuklak and Delhi is Delhi at this point would have 15 scholars, which they can pull out of the buildings and heal. You've got 2. And because it's not a heal elephant build, he has no surplus healing, which means you need a lot of downtime between fights to heal War Elephants. And you can't really heal them in fights. So think about that as a drastic difference between Delhi and Tuklak on how they approach fights. Tuklak's win needs to be more emphatic, whereas Delhi's can be more grindy. They're willing to take those trades. So now we have like the stack up coming in, and they've both chosen their sides, right? So Wham into Horseman was a surprising pick, actually. I wasn't anticipating that. I thought he'd try and like litter in some sort of solution to the elephants on a spear count again. Because like war elephants on their own would be super scary. And the scary part is if Wham just slightly mispositions in this upcoming fight, Trample will destroy him. So he needs to be switched on. I do love that he's been keeping the tributaries alive, by the way, because Roost tributaries get slept on a little. They do have bonus against Cav. They are an anti-Cav unit. Not as much as Spearmen, but still useful. And there's that return to spears we talked about. Now, both of them do have decent food income, but we're reaching the point now where Vortex is starting to run out of safety. It's always going to come back to that choice to go War Elephants, which I don't think is wrong. It makes sense for his strategy, but it gives something to your opponent. Breadth. If you look at the map, Wham is now moving to the deer. He also has stockyards at home. At a point where Vortex probably needs to start thinking about those northern and southern resources, but can't get them easily. And this big clash coming in, this is critical. Look at the positioning. Trample. He tries to bait it. But the Raider Elephants just, they don't find the connect they needed. They get pushed back way too quickly because the elegant way that Wham shifted in and out of that stealth forest at the perfect moment. And this is just death push into GG, right? At this stage, there's no turnaround. If you're playing at this level, you're used to reacting to Trample by now. Tramples have to be earned, and it's not easy. And with 30 crossbows, the outcome is all too obvious. But, guys, what a heartbreaker. I mean, really impressed by Wham. Height of his career. I do feel bad for Vortex about that governor detail, because you do wonder if the outcome could have been different. But this is the thing. It's not just about playing great AoE 4. It's about minimizing mistakes. And in these high-octane, high-stressful moments, your opponent's actions can bait, distract, and draw you away from what really matters. And Wham done a fantastic job with that. All right, so that was semifinals done. Do you guys say, like, is there, So wait, you guys saying that there's some practice happening between Vortex and Luciferon? Do you guys want me to talk over, go through the grand finals instead, or? I'm assuming you guys want the grand finals checked out. How much food did he miss out from the governor? It's hard to tell 100%. If we had to put a number on it, probably... It's 5 through to about 12 minutes, right? And an average each minute being worth, let's say 50 food, because he built more than that. So let's balance out the mid ground. It's probably like 500-600 food-ish range, I reckon. At least 500-600 food. It depends how quickly he built the houses afterwards. I'd have to go back and double check. But like it's enough that it matters, right? Especially when you consider timings in games. KP's really good at explaining stuff in a way that's insightful, but still very engaging. Oh, thank you, man. I mean, I think the lads, I think Dumu, like, he was doing a good job, especially of like trying to like highlight describing mechanics we understand again. Which I said, like, at the time, it's very important you do that on international events, because you're inviting a lot of people who don't see the game to see the game again for the first time in years or forever. They need to be able to digest the game. And this is why, like, I don't know if you guys saw this recently. There's like a thing with Bebop in Deadlock. He has an ability. And that ability has a name in-game that, like, it doesn't... Like, if you don't know the game, you don't know what the hell it is. So his ability name is Grapple Arm. He's even got a hook for a sign. Everyone calls it a hook. There's a few commentators that might call it Grapple Arm because they want to show they know the knowledge and whatever. That's bad. Not saying the costs are bad, but like it's bad terminology because to a generic viewer who doesn't sweat the game, they don't understand. So this is the vital importance as a commentator of finding that median to communicate in a way that makes sense. That's why I usually like metaphors and analogies a lot, because we can relate to a lot of them. They help guide people into a world they don't understand. And that's critical. It's the same thing like in Age of Empires 4. Sometimes it's just much better to just say +1 than say like Bloomery or whatever else, or like Wedge Rivets. You'll always hear me say like range +1 because for you you might not know all those names. That's not me shaming you for not knowing every single terminology in the game of Age of Empires 4, whatever game. It's just realistically, there's a lot of obscure names that people aren't going to clock. And it's important as a commentator to guide people through that world in a digestible way. So, always remember that. Like, check that out. Next time you watch a major event in whatever game, see if the commentators are doing that. If they're using almost like newbie terms. They're trying to avoid saying QWER shortcuts on the keyboard, but they're trying to relate it to what you see on screen. We have that in Dota 2 as well. We had one was called Santi's Eclipse, but it looked like he was dropping the hammer because he'd go like this and someone would fall. So we called it dropping the hammer. Helps people so much.
Especially if you are a meta trendsetter like Marine Lord, but they both know what the other one's good at. They both know what they want to go for.
I'm going to keep the pigeon background pummeling. I have to admit, it really puts me off and makes me want to stop watching as I have quite a strong dislike phobia for pigeons. I'm not going to keep it permanently, but that's an interesting phobia to have. So sorry about that. I mean, I get it if it was like seagulls, because those guys are asshats. Damn, never heard that before. But no, we vary the backgrounds. It's just we always have the Might Magic one, so it's nice to spin it up a bit.
Just yesterday, his games against Vortex, he showed that
MO vs Poppy is very close. We're going to find out.
I suspect Marine Lord just saw that game and said, well, I can just...
All right, anyway, should we get into game 1?
Out yesterday, but it was a bit of an unusual game, an unusual start, maybe unfortunate, you could say. But
a lot of non-RTS players watching Marine Lord's sponsor streams, and a lot of people really have a hard time getting what happens. But this comes back to, I think my take has always been on the observer side, we're too far out. I still maintain that. Even watching these, if we were, everyone knows who watches here, if we were able to watch this in game right now, I would be, to give you an example, instead of the camera being where it is, my camera placement would probably be more like that. Maybe a bit closer. Right? And I think that helps a lot because it gives you the clarity to see, especially when you consider the way that bit rates work in a game like AoE4, on platforms like Twitch and whatever, the bit rate's limited, right? And the engine of Age of Empires, the way that it's all coded, it doesn't show very nicely on low bit rate anyway. So that's already a double awkward issue. But it's just, it gives so much more feel and intimacy. I think it's such a small detail that you don't realize until you analyze it. It helps people a lot. Some people won't like it because they like playing super zoomed out, but I think especially when you're trying to invite a new audience in, personally in my eyes, it's so important because people just can't grasp what's happening.
That's what we want. That's what we want. It is going to be King of the Hill.
Viewers hardly ever get to see the base unless it's the raid. Yeah, I think you've got to try and balance it.
As the blue Ottoman player,
could you cast like this? I think I do a reasonable job of that, no? Oh, she got Swarmer's Kid, rip. I thought it was going to be something like watching Home Alone and seeing that scene with the pigeon lady. No zoom on custom mode for... That's the other thing. I think that more people than people realize, the sweats that play in Panoramic, I think there's a lot of people that still don't know Panoramic exists and play in the closer classic view. That's my take. All right. Okay, so... Wait, is there no... Okay. Yeah, okay, they do fix it. It's the caster's volume is on at the very beginning.
A very small monitor.
Let me just find the point where they actually cut that out. Otherwise, it's going to be weird listening to all the voices, I imagine. All right, so, oopsie. Sorry, skipped ahead a little.
One thing in the dark. My production.
Oh, yeah, they paused and then they... All right, here we go, guys. Grand finals on the stage at Royal Albert Hall. Marine Lord versus Wham. Wham looking to achieve the best he has ever been able to. The highlight of his career in Age of Empires 4. Marine Lord looking to complete the trifecta. Back-to-back-to-back World Lord champions. Game number 1, Ottomans versus Golden Horde. And already a great opening by Marine Lord. I love the way he began this. Mass Spearman. there's certain civs you don't want to build more than just a few spears or Ottomans, but Ottomans feels great to blob up like this for multiple reasons. For a start, you're already accruing points towards your next Vizier points, which gives you things like the free healer units, or it gives you a drummer boy to give buffs, or lots of different things like sheep. But the other thing is you're able to find value for these spears. Multiple reasons. One, Golden Horde cannot build their town center next to the stone. The reason that's important is they always want to get this Uvu online here to generate stone for free, so it gives you a target to burn down and harass, which simultaneously forces this reaction where Wham had to expend a lot of resources early on an expensive tower. Follow this up into the feudal age, which is now coming for Wham, and you may notice the first thing he just queued up is a heavy cavalry unit. Heavy cav units just gives more credence to the fact that Marine Lord is fine to add in spears and not have to feel bad about it. This is the tricky thing with Ottomans we've talked about in a lot of ways. Like, same thing as if Wham now goes archers, it enables Ottomans to be very happy to go into the best unit they can build, which is the Sipahi-like cavalry. There's a lot of complementary elements about Ottomans at the moment with the way they've been designed that gives them a lot of tempo control when they transition that is beneficial early on. So, Wham now heading across with the Khan. Sorry, I said Torgood. Yeah, he brings out the Khan, has archer production underway. Marine Lord already has now slowed down, gone for the tech instead. Looking at the map, this is a little bit, I don't want to say tricky. Yeah, kind of tricky in some ways. It's weird for Golden Horde. There's like immense value on the south side for like your second Uva and deer spot. So like you could think about going for an outpost down there, but it puts you really far out and kind of cuts your base into two, I think. But now the tech up complete, first thing I'd be expecting out Marine Lord is let's get some cavalry going. Because you're anticipating your opponent's going to be going archers probably to counter spears. And then his other thing would be Torgood. Tough part about Torgood is you can get annihilated by Sipahi because they can outnumber you cost for cost. And then on top of that, there's going to be healing on one side. But if you remember, the Torgood, which is the heavy cavalry of Golden Horde, or one of them, unlike the Keshik, it doesn't get healing. Can't heal itself through fighting until later on. Sorry, I just realized I accidentally hid chat. Whoops. Bring you guys back up. Oh, wait. We can... Let's turn up a bit. Also about game knowledge required to appreciate what's happening. It's really cool when civs are so different. We have quite a few now, but it's getting somewhat confusing and complex for newcomers. Same for AOM, where the mythological units aren't super intuitive. Exactly. I mean, AOM, like... I think it could have made it work through certain ways, like StarCraft did, right? Well, like that's one thing I always say, that Age of Empires has a huge edge over certain games like StarCraft in terms of new player readability. Because these are all relatable things to a certain degree. Like we can tell what an archer is, we can tell what a spearman is. But if you have never played StarCraft, it's really tough to pick that up and understand what the hell's going on at all. So, Wham. Now coming in with a cheeky little raid. We'll just cut down some of the lingering spears, but a lot of damage already taken actually on these Torgood. And remember, when the Sipahi come out, they have the capacity to chase down these guys. So gradually, you will expect to lose them. I always talk about like the Golden Horde has these weird timings where they can do a lot of damage with the heavy cavalry, but then the aftermath hits. It's like Roost Knight versus French Knight type logic, right? Like Roost Knights can do a lot, but then they have no health left. Whereas French Knights like fight, go heal, fight, go heal. Great. And what's up, Shirante? Appreciate the prime sub, buddy. Welcome to Swarm. So Burn coming over here. Archers are going to react to this, which is going to force Marine Lord away. He's now pivoting archers as well because he saw Wham went into spears. So now the interesting part about getting 1-1-1 here, we often talk about the drum that the Ottomans have, the meta, which gives different auras, as advantageous when you get the right counterplay. But what's really good as well in this situation is if both sides are building the Tri-Force, all three unit types, that makes the generic attack speed an outright complement across the board. Whereas if you're stuck on one or two unit types, you start to instead worry that you need to be, you know, in the right situation for melee armor or ranged armor. Instead, you can jack of all trades. I think the tricky thing it does for your opponent when you're Ottomans is like for Wham, if he now went only archers, please, I'm just going to put ranged armor on. Like it's such an itty bitty detail. I think for a lot of people, they probably don't clock it in their games because it seems like such a small thing. But for Ottomans, that meta drum in Feudal Age is a game breaker. Just watched your YouTube video. Wish you hadn't made a drastic decision off a fairly emotionally loaded situation. Yeah, there are financial thoughts behind the scenes too, but starting from zero instead of taking 1-2 step. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say we're starting from zero. But like, I think what people don't, and you know, like I don't share everything because I don't want it to turn into like excuses, lol, and pity me. I mean, maybe I should be more transparent. I think I am on certain things and not on others. Lot of stuff going on. I needed time away, really. Like I've already been getting diagnoses for a few different things that I wouldn't have done otherwise, because I would have just kept pounding the path. You know, like I still do feel pretty harsh done by the parties involved. So I also didn't know if I wanted to come back, because even now I'm like a little bit worried, like on the Microsoft side, how that relationship looks moving forward. But yeah, like I needed the time away. Spy count now getting pretty high. So while I'm at this stage, I don't know, man, like Golden Horde versus Ottomans, I'm trying to think of it as like one of the roughest matchups. Because like, what do you do now? You can go Karash, which will give you your own armor factor, which is cool. We haven't seen it yet. I think one of the tricky things is, you know, we're in a cavalry meta still in a lot of ways. People talk about heavy cav a lot, but light cav just as crucial. And the other thing for me that makes this tricky is like that healing factor. Golden Horde is just this big, like, it's like a one-time use thing, you know? It's like when you get those temporary, like, it's like a refillable ink versus a one-time use, right? Like Ottomans is a refillable pot of ink. You know, it's like using the quill. You just get the ink, dip it, but then the ink runs out and you refill it. Whereas for Wham, when he plays Torgud as part of a critical part of the strat, it's kind of like using a felt tip pen. Eventually, it's just going to dry up. And Wham, he knows it, which is why he started to back away and look for a castle play. But Marine Lord's killer instinct kicked in perfectly here. We talked about this area, the Uvu, the deer. There was never an outpost placed down here. Not that it would stop this many torches. And the timing could not be worse. You see Wham just gets forced to reinvest, but it starts to feel like damage already done here, right? Like, how do you now fight an army of that size? Cutting reinforcements is literally his only option. But Marine Lord, if he just starts pumping only Sipahi, can't catch the reinforcements. Now just like turn and burn. Comes back the other way. And food is now a little bit of a predicament because Wham hasn't started to build stockyards at the stage, and he's on berries in his base. After that, he's going to be out of food, right? You trade north side, but you haven't secured that area either. It's very weird how, on a map that seems like it's very linear and easy to wall in and be safe, you can feel very exposed, actually, I'd say, on King of the Hill. Taking a break wasn't the issue, quitting was. To be fair, like, in my mind, I had quit, right? It was listening to all the people that had me like, let's give this one more try. But, like, make no mistake about it. Like, things have to change. Things have to be different from my perspective, how I approach things and what I'm aiming to achieve. Because otherwise, we're just going to do the same thing, and I'm definitely going to have to leave and go get 9 to 5 and not be back, right? So, you know, I wanted to give it a shot. But I didn't know why I wanted to give it a shot at the time. All right, Clash coming in. And now you just see that brutal fact that the ranged armor is activated because he sees, like, this awkward issue here is that spear on spear, you're not going to feel great about that with the Golden Horde, but also the front line doesn't do damage. The Torgud are ticklers. The Sipahi are not. So the ranged armor call there is a super sick one from Marine Lord. He knew he'd be able to crack through just by unraveling the backline DPS. At this point, it's breakpoint, right? Wham, stuck in his base when he can't afford to be. He's already moved out to the berries to the north side, but you know this is going to turn into a stranglehold now. You're mathematically just too far behind. And for Marine Lord, there's options. He can either go Ultra Dive or Ultra Tech. Microsoft come around if you pull more views than them. Sure, I think part of it is like thinking about the situation I want to put myself in as well moving forward. Because, like I said, for me, basically all my eggs were in a single developer basket where literally one person could decide your outcome. Or it felt like that. And I want to try and avoid getting into that helpless position again. Hey, sup, Corvinus, the legendary Minecraft streamer. Thank you, buddy. Welcome, one and all. We're just going over the WAM vs. Marine Lord games. And then I imagine after that, we'll be checking out maybe some live games from the ladder. Yeah, this is just surgical Ottomans by Marine Lord. How are most pros ranking Otto right now? Like, when I left off, I feel like they were top 4 civs. Here we Dirt House. Have you built a second floor for it yet? Gotta get that second floorage. And then you gotta get, like, just the full hole for you to just get down to mine quickly. No more mining for WAM. And good eyeballs. WAM started this fight with 900 food unused. He just couldn't allocate it quick enough. That's the tricky thing. Like, when you get forced to readjust and put resources into military, with Golden Horde in particular, because it's double production, it's batch production, you don't have that slew of units. You have this chunk, this clunk, right? It's almost like, you know when you see the cartoon straws and they're just glugging up big, like, circles? It's like that, instead of a powerful streamline. The dive coming on the other side. I remember what he said about these boys. They've no longer got the health, they've now got the damage. These are actual Keshiks. Issue with that is it means you've got plastic armor. May do damage, but you're not very tanky. And wait, did he go for... No, okay. He didn't. For a second there, I thought he actually would go for the crossbow emplacements, but he'll save on the point. That's the thing. Like, the weird thing about trying to dive Ottomans with Keshiks is even if you get into a good position, if they realize what's about to happen and they've been holding a vizier point, they can go for the crossbow emplacements, and you just melt. Man, Marine Lord full baited WAM as well. Look at the full reinvestment. So there's nothing left to try and tech with. He hasn't got a single stockyard. This all goes back to the idea of, like, who prepped for what. And we talked about the idea that, like, WAM, because he had no stockyards, he wasn't preparing himself for a later phase of the game. But that wasn't... I don't think that was much out of choice. Once he got forced to reinvest, you could see what the game strat was originally. Tech ahead of my opponent and then push through. Got forced off that timing, and then you realize you actually don't have the map control or the economy for a long feud. Emal said afterwards from his stream that the draft format was crap and it was guaranteed 3-2. I mean, I talked about this a lot as well in my my video on YouTube. Like, I think the drafts, I think that there's a lot of the drafts are still, in general, in AoE4 not that great for long grand finals, or as in, like, going the full length for the format. Something we need to kind of reassess. It's like, you want to feel like the draft matters, so you don't want to let people do whatever they want in a final game. But it does suck how often I feel like we get to a final game in the grand finals, i.e. a best of 7 that goes to 7 games. And we could have had 6 epic games up to that point, but that final game can often feel a little bit inevitable. And that's not just an issue within Age of Empires 4. That's an issue that Age of Empires 2 also has, actually. The draft formats can quite often lead the outcome. And that is cool to see from a strategic standpoint that you outdraft your opponent. But it can suck for the outcome of the tournament. So messy clash here, but this is basically WAM's big punt at it. I think this is like the awkward thing. Against other civs, you reach a point where adding more horsemen just kind of feels neglectful. But with Ottomans, they just don't care. If they had to add in an extra 30 Sipahi, that's not a bad thing. That's one of the best units you can get your hands on. So yeah, I wasn't able to catch him with his hand in the cookie jar. And now we get the critical hit to the jugular. High ground, coming in, Marine Lord. He stays just on the edge to make sure he's not seen. Great reaction early by WAM. How we... Wait. Was that... why was he going back? Now, this is the crazy part. There could have been a cutoff there. I still don't know why WAM went back in the first point. It looked like it was a misclick, but he has to have been wishing that it was a misclick he didn't notice. Loses several villages. Because at that point, like, if we go back, we can double check this. Wow, replay. I wish we had this in game. I can only think that what happened is the meta accidentally came in range, but when we checked vision, look, he didn't. He didn't until then. And WAM was already pulling the workers home. I just don't know why. Yeah, you can see it wasn't intended. He goes back and then all of a sudden, GG. No, I'm not questioning him like the go back. I'm questioning the fact he retreated in the first point, right? But that was brutal. That could have been worse. I think there was actually an opportunity for Marine Lord to even cut the workers off if he went straight across, but he started attacking. Because you just don't think you're going to get the opportunity. But even then, even with him getting away from this, you just see the worker count. Like, at this point, you know your opponent has to be aging, or his army is just significantly bigger than yours. Either way, you're now down heavy on economy. And you can't even fight this army. Surgical game 1 from Marine Lord. Doesn't need to come in range to trigger attack notification? What are you on about? I'm talking about the drummer standing there. But there you go. Game 1. Surgical from Marine Lord. And then, of course, that leads us into hunt range next.
Some degree. There are.
Okay, so here we go. Game number 2, and this was a mind-boggler. Marlian versus Jean. And, okay, thank you, Chimera. Meta triggers attack. Why does the meta trigger attack notification? What, from just standing there? Even when he wasn't seen. That has to be a bug, right? Has that been in for a while? It sounds like the type of thing that's probably been there for a long time and then just, like, never gets fixed. I don't know why, though. Maybe it's the way they coded it. It seems weird to... Is that, like, across the board? Like, because I'm trying to think. We've got newer aura units. Do any aura-type units do that? Even when they don't attack? Anyway, let's digest this a bit, because this was a wacky pick. Jean versus Mali. I'm still trying to figure out how Mera, triggers an attack notification. You know what it probably is from a coding standpoint? No, maybe it's something to do with the aura. Maybe they once upon a time had a debuff aura, and that's why? That's the only thing I can think. Have you not played Ottomans? No. I don't really spend too much time playing, most of the time casting. Also, I don't think Ottomans is like my vibe, even if I did. Sorry, other players. Also, it's just the type of thing, like... I don't know if I noticed straight away. It's not as obvious as you were playing Mongols and your Khan shot an arrow. There's a debuff aura of camel aura on horses? Yeah, but I'm talking about... Yeah, but that doesn't... Does that trigger... I don't think that triggers... an attack attack notification from what I've seen. But anyway, game 2, Mali versus Jean. This is I remember Emma was saying, like, so who's favored here? It was like straight. I was like, Mali love life. Jean's kind of tricky, right? You have to find a way to inject yourself and do some serious damage early on. That can be hard for multiple reasons. For a start, Malians have tankier spears. You can't cleave through them early. But to make matters like 20 times worse, Jean is all about trying to find favorable trades. Malians is like one of the king of defender civs. They can build javelins and donzos and survive on that alone and thrive on that because their whole army is hybridized into attack mode and choke points. This is tricky for Jean because Jean tends to thrive around melee units. Melee units can't fully exploit their damage when they're stuck inside of a base. So, really for Marine Lord, I think the concept here, because remember, he would have allowed Malians through after seeing even the other pick, is probably I can get boar, I can have map control, and although you may be safe camping your base, and Malians do have cows, there are limitations on what you can have economically on this map, and I will try to starve you of those. Same things like worker elephants, both units have the sword icon if you click on a unit. Okay, both Meta and worker elephants can target and follow enemy units. So it triggers from you being in range, not from you clicking to follow them though, right? Corvinus, is that right? Just hashtag weird coding behaviors still. It's very weird. It's weird to think that whatever it is hasn't been solved. But then again, like it sounds like what it is an engine level issue. And the sad reality is like engine level issues aren't going to get fixed anytime soon, you know? Got to add start of KP to Conqueror series and oh god, no. Chill. They do attack without attacking. Got it. So their intense scaring is like a scolding that hurts people. I'm pretty sure I set like a goal for KB to Conk series a long time ago. I don't know if we'll ever hit that one now. So there you go. Melee Jean as expected. You simply cannot go range Jean against Mali. The problem is, guys, javelins disintegrate range units, so Jean would just die way too easily. And then, even if you get level 3, it doesn't save you. If you get level 3, sure, you get this range damage reduction, but you're now taking so much bonus damage that it still kills you. It's harsh, man. So for that reason, you get forced into melee. Can be good, because these initial Donzos, you can blunt their attack so that your knights can charge. But because Donzos have more effective HP, it's harder to kill them with cleaves early on, i.e. it's harder to stop them scaling. To make matters worse, what Wham has already started doing is, against a Civ that has got the ability to heal, he's done the right thing in building a unit that can attack you from range. Donzos, remember, have phenomenal range on their javelin flips. And the damage can add up quickly. Emma said I should do it. Yeah, of course she did. I don't know. My take is I think a lot less people would be interested in even watching that, content-wise. Not going to play like these guys, am I? Leaf coming in. This is a really good strike by Marine Lord, just getting that kind of damage in early, delaying the pit mine timing. At this point, just kind of trying to milk the health pool as much as possible. This part was a little bit rough in my eyes. The Donzo, watch what happens here. Marine Lord gets greedy. He goes back in. He does get the kill, but look at the health pools now. This puts him in a tricky situation, because now you're thinking, okay, I kind of need chivalry early. Remember what we said about like every player feeling like they weren't playing their best and something slipping through? I wonder if Marine Lord feels like normally this would be the point where chivalry starts to come on the menu. Because he doesn't go for it for a very long time. So Jean de Cleve just going to continue to keep the pressure. But the problem here is like Wham can technically keep the super injured Donzos away from the front line, and they're still contributing because of the hybrid attack. Emma deserves a Steam Deck? No. She's got a... She's given a PC worth more than a Steam Deck. All right, Cleve coming in. This, once again, like, it looks like a pretty rough fight, right? Some knights being sacked like that. Does at least clear up the Donzos. And it may seem like a sucky exchange from Marine Lord, but if he can now go for ball control and just keep scaling that XP, this isn't the most tragic tale to weave for the Frenchman. And most importantly, Jean is min-maxing. Like, her walking away with health like that is not a depressing feature. It is a crucial feature, because she will heal up every time. She's the unit you want to keep doing this with. So Marine Lord now goes in for the Archer switch. Love the fact that Wham went for a sofa. Remember, this map, not a lot of safe resources in your basement from range. And more importantly, a Civ like John and French are going to feel like they own the map. They're going to feel it's their birthright to go out there and tap all the resources. So what you want to do is just have 1 or 2 units that can slip in unnoticed and raid. And the cool thing about sofas, probably still feels like a little bit of an overtuned unit. Very good in the feudal age all of a sudden. And also faster than knights anyway. So if your opponent doesn't catch you sleeping, you should almost always be able to get away with your sofas. Unless they go for some crazy surround with, 3 knights from 3 different directions. So Pig's been picked. Interestingly enough, Marine Lord hasn't come forward yet. But I think that's because without the archers in place, the Donzo threat would be overwhelming on approach. And there's that sofa slipping in. Marine Lord sees it, does react quickly, but that should be -1. Damage so good on these things, man. And also just the idle time. Slowing down the scaling of knights, which is clearly what Marine Lord's goal is in this game. Not just that, the sofa keeps on creeping. It's just outrageous what this one sofa is able to achieve. Now forces a reaction. 3 knights. Not 1, not 2, 3. Over 3 times the value. Now has to react to that play to try and push you away. Even if it's 1 knight chasing a sofa, if you can't connect, you're wasting more resources chasing. Now, the positives would normally be, if this was French, hey, your villager count's going up at least to have these problems. This is Jean, it's different. You do get discounts, yes, but remember, he's up against the cow. 12 cow already set up by Wham. Jab switch now also on the way. we're reaching that true threat point for Jean where she could just turn up and disappear. Does look like he baited that nicely. Notice what Marino was doing where he kind of held the archers in position. The Donzo javelin throws just go to the wrong location. They don't really get what they're looking for. But look at that retreat. This is what I was talking about before. You know there's going to be more and more jabs coming. So make no mistake about it. Marine Lord is fully aware that TikTok goes the clock, and the clock is not on his side here. Right? Economy scaling's not there. Military may seem like it's scaling good because you've got knights, but ultimately your opponent can basically get away with only building Donzos. You have to kind of force him off of that. Because if you build up to 40 Donzos, John is still going to die. Because 40 Donzos at, what, 6 damage apiece, which you can increase by 1. So you go up to 7 damage, I think, in the Feudal Age. That's 280 damage before reductions. Let's say you lose half that damage. That's like 140 in a burst. So you're doing over 100 damage every 15 seconds to Jean. She can't outsee her. And you can edge the fight because, for some outrageous reason still, Donzos have more range on their throw than javelins. We're just trying to strategize high approaches, trying to bait the javelin throw to preferably go on Jean, and then the knights can like charge in after there's a slight retreat. The Jav count is now up to 7. The sofas are still raiding through, by the way. Just one sofa. Didn't overinvest. Just got enough to be a pain in the ass. And notice we still look at this game and see like limited ball control. Right? He's got the one down here now, but only 5 villages out. The other ball doesn't really feel attainable, so he hasn't got that double food injection. Meanwhile, the clock continues to tick, and inevitability begins to strike. Wham gets a crucial piece of info there. He now knows the goal is already being tapped dry. Marine Lord's having to spread wider. Why is this important? If Wham is thinking of going for attack in 2 or 3 minutes, Sofa may have been on the menu. Now that you know your opponent is going wider on the map, Sofas sound even better. Not full commitment, not 50 of them. You know, 5, 10, just to raid about. I love that Wham had already anticipated the potential hits on the other side. Wall's already up there, which means that Marine Lord had no real way in. But this is tricky, right? This is where Jean games begin to feel like an inevitable L for a lot of players. Is you continue to scale, and you keep asking yourself, okay, where's the entry point? Where's the entry point? Against another Civ, you continue to eke the game out because, you know, if this is like English or something, unless they've gone 2 TC, where is their scale point realistically, economically? With Malians, it just feels so helpful and organic when you get to sit here and scale up like this. We're talking about almost 15 javelins now, 31 Donzos. On approach, you could easily lose 2, 3 knights before you even touch your opponent. To make matters worse, I think Wham is now getting ready for the 3rd age. Marine Lord, oh, that's a horrible way to begin a fight. Yeah, knights are out of position. They don't even want to turn for this. Now, keep in mind this area, very important. Like this area here with the berries, really good position to try and hold and stop knights from overwhelming you. Sofa did go back in. We talked about that coming back to bite in the bar. That one Sofa has been causing so much pain for Marine Lord. Now an approach. Watch what happens. If you start to run away, it ain't going to be pretty for Jean. I'll say that much. Concave. He clusters too hard. And Jean's dead. Jean players hate Malians. Full stop. And the exit is just so ugly. I remember sitting there at Emma and going, the resource exchange here is just disgusting. In fact, you can see it at the bottom. Like, that basically made the difference in destroyed value. Marine Lord, this is where you start to feel like the game is getting away from you, right? And Wham has already started to anticipate things. You can see he's walling to the north side. Like, I think for Marine Lord, it's tricky now. He needs to come out for additional food sources, so you have to think about defending that in the center. But then also now you're starting to think, okay, how do I raid elsewhere? And there's that chivalry we talked about. Coming in now at 15 minutes after a big loss in a fight like that as well. You do an AoE 4 after all that drama? I mean, we've been over this. We're probably going to have to keep going over it for people. You know, they've done a dumb thing, and I acknowledge that. Stand by it that the punishment was insane at first, for sure. And didn't fit. But it is what it is. It's happened. They've done a dumb thing. 2026 is a crappy year that I'm trying to turn into a good one. And I'm a builder, not a destroyer, so I want to focus on the building. So you're probably wondering, why doesn't Marine Lord just tech instead? You're in a pretty damning position if you try and tech here, right? Like, you're spreading super wide right now, and your opponent's going to have a better army after winning a big fight. So there's like 3 different reasons that combine together to say teching now would be bad. But this does begin to feel like a desperation dive. The tech's already in. Donzo's javelin's upgraded. Jean gets completely impaled. And good night to the French Prince in G2. Great strike back by Wham. Shows you exactly why Marlians is such a highly desirable and bannable civ. And most importantly, exactly what Wham needed early on. Not everyone's going to be able to pull off a 3-0 down Hero Miracle return reverse sweep. It's also very demoralizing, especially in a best of 5. You go 2 down, you feel like your draft has been broken in some way. Because if you go 2-0 down, at that point, your opponent can throw some weird curveballs that you aren't anticipating. He can approach the draft in a completely different way by having a score advantage. Because he can, I'm not going to say throw a game, but he can do something unusual with a game choice to make his draft stronger later. We love one more counteroffensive here. He did get the buyback on John. But the Donzo wave, it's just so fat. And remember, this is a feudal army. It's made of plastic. Even Jean de Cleve could not hope to fix that. Yeah, with his maiden down, Marine Lord will admit it. G2 to the Canadian. A deeper set guaranteed between the two. You heard it there from Ben. First time Marine Lord has bled in the grand finals.
Really good, but Yumi's being cheaper. A lot cheaper as well.
Now, this game was wild. I was not expecting this, but we get into Socotra in the grand finals on LAN at Red Bull Wallow. And what do we see through our lens on the other side? We talked about it being the type of signature play to kind of play curveball strats on Socotra in the past, and they do it here. Wham, Poppy Paw are never one to just do this generic French, English, Malian pick. They go into one of the smallest maps in the game, and he whips out the Tuklak Dynasty. Up against Marine Lord's French, though. We're trying to right the wrong of a French loss already in this series. And an interesting pick, actually, because like French can go for the ball, potentially. But there's no urgency, because the Civ on the other side could not touch it at all. And remember, that's usually the most decisive factor in Socotra. But what blew my mind in this game, you guys see it, right? Look at the sheep count. I don't know how he done it. On a map this small, with barely any variance you could imagine, somehow Wham comes out with 2/3 of the sheep on Socotra. An insane advantage on a map like this. A map where food runs out fast in your safe area. Not just that, Wham milks it further, right? Like, he goes out into the berries, which is a really smart read there. Because remember, your scout can stay out longer than your opponents if you're on berries instead of on the sheep. The Dome of Faith now coming in. Not going to be seeing a TOV out of him. I mean, Dome of Faith here, I can kind of see the logic. You're on a very short map, so you can get that pressure point early on, potentially, and then need to heal afterwards. And as expected, a School of Cavalry coming in. But that was the main thing that mattered in this early game. And then we see this. So we've just gone from crazy advantage to let's try and get even crazier. Because now, when you start to see stone gathering like this, you start to think, oh, what's that? This map is really small. Is he going to keep drop my base? That has to be on the menu, right? Like, maybe not for the first castle, unless your opponent does something very greedy. The second castle, potentially. And we already see the racks coming, so Wham knows there's going to be knights, as you'd expect. But the tricky part now comes down to, where do you get this castle? Are you allowed the freedom necessary to make it a good one? Ain't it a default camera angle? What, the one coming in? No, the sky drop angle is not. This is the default 2 up in the sky camera angle, yes, though. Which tournaments on the weekend? We've got a POAs qualifiers coming in that we'll be able to check out. So first night already on the way. Tricky thing here is Wham, he has got the gold necessary. He needs to remember to trigger for the hardened on spears. Otherwise, that one night actually could be really problematic. And the thing is, you know, good thing for Marine Lord is he knows it's not going to be some stupid cheesy all-in, because you can already see the house placement, which tells you this is meant to be a fort drop to get food. Right, Wham feeling very inspired after his series against Vortex, where he's actually able to close it out against that Tuklak pick in the final game. I love the attempt to get Pumba. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for Wham. Because if you actually get that Pumba pull, there is a way in which you kind of pin this knight and he loses half his HP. A great short-range charge there, just to make sure it's not a trade for nothing. And there's the keep drop. This feels rough, though. Because the thing you have to keep in mind is when you place a castle like this, whenever you place it behind the resource, getting the resource afterwards becomes immensely more difficult. Because now I have many ways to attack it. Outpost rushes, archers. You know, even the idea of my knights diving, I'm now diving front side, so you have to react and pull away defensively, and it means that I can force idle time without being in range of your towers as long. Trade-off of putting on the other side, of course, is like, you know, oh crap. Usually I have to walk further to get to a garrison spot. That's where Tuklak is a lot cooler. While a civ like French here would drop a mining camp here, and then if you put an outpost on the other side, it's bad because you have to rally so far away. For Tuklak, they just move the drop-off location in the direction of the defense. Really natural and helpful. And there we do see the ball pull we talked about before, because Marine Lord had no rush. He needs to go to it because he's running out of sheep. But now it feels mostly free. Still, does have to hold this area with both hands in a firm iron grip, because remember, at the end of the day, he doesn't have the sheep fallback plan that Wham does. Like, the sheep counter still came up. I think it would be something like probably 15 to 1. Oh, let me look. You see about those archers? This is the thing. So Kotra is a map that can quite often be decided by the first few units because it's so small. A little bit of night dive just to be annoying. But realistically, he can just kind of hold ground here. He has the range to be an absolute nuisance. I believe Wham, did he go textiles? I don't think so. Look at the health pool. Doesn't feel like it. What's interesting is Wham, instead of going raider elephants to try and contest this directly or archers, he ends up going for healer elephants to try and sustain through it. With a rough strat. Love this pivot point when he then went into the dot, because he can just shuffle around. You're playing against French. If there's something you always can guarantee, it's that they need gold and a lot of it. So that's going to be his contest point. Marine Lord, taking advantage of the fact that his opponent has gone for a defensive build, plays the width of the map. So just overall, great reactions by Marine Lord to this opening. And I like the way that Wham's just trying to kind of throw a curveball by going for the raid on C. Wham didn't build any raider elephants this game. I know. I think if you were going to do it, you do it early. Because otherwise, doing it later, you just get spammed out by knights. So as we fast forward just a little bit, the walls start to go up because this reaches like kind of an idle point of like neither players making moves. They're just prepping for that mid-game equation now. So that does mean that Wham inherently starts to get that extra food source coming in. We did see a dock response in the end coming out from Marine Lord down here as this push comes in. So you already anticipate it well in advance. Cool thing about that for the French as well, it doesn't feel bad to build a dock because it's also a house. So, you know, you're getting a cheaper dock. And unfortunately, the nature of archer ships makes it very hard to connect for a kill here. Didn't get any. Somehow. I thought he was going to get one from that when I watched. I was like, on the retreat, you hit the back of the formation, you should be guaranteed something, but It's the RNG of the arrows sometimes. So at this stage, I remember sitting there and I was kind of worried, like, the state of things, Wham didn't really have an answer to the night scaling. Because earlier on in the tournament, we were talking about the whole idea that you have two solutions to healing frustrations. Mass ranged or heavy base damage units are usually the two comfortable ways to go. Because archers can snipe out the healers, or base damage high units can absorb limited space and burst through healing. The Knights are going to do that. Funnily enough, Marine Lord's entire comp ticks both of those boxes together. And my worry is that Wham is now relying more on healing versus, say, Spearman. He does, for the time being, have the static defenses, which is why I think he feels confident about this position. Because instead, he wants to heal so he can sustain, and then use archers to tickle from range. And then every time he feels pressured, he can always just fall back to the castle, because Marine Lord doesn't want to dive that. That's a death sentence. It's a castle. It's a castle that should just keep getting better. So game continues a little bit deeper. The walls continue to go up. At this stage, Castle Age feels all but inevitable. And in fact, Marine Lord has already been stockpiling a crap load of food at this point to get there. And there you go. So Guildhall now on the way. So this is, I think, what starts to light a fire on your ass a little, is once you hear that, you kind of feel like you need to get something done. Because when you're on a very small map like this, where every resource can feel contested, Guildhall is just a get-out-of-jail-free card. You know, you've either got a boatload of gold sitting in reserve 10 minutes from now, or a boatload of food. Either way, it gives you a healthy resurge, and this is even the type of map where, when you're on the other side, you're not worried about your opponent necessarily rushing Imperial Age. You're actually more concerned about him just injecting, say, 2,000 extra food into a push. Because you don't have the breathing room to dodge or recover from that like you would on, say, a Dry Arabia. Marine Lord gets a dive in. Nice connect. Finds a few workers. Just shuffles away. Anyone watching wondering how to get away with age ups, that's how. Wham's in no way positioned to do any sort of counter damage. He just took a hit to his economy. His opponent got a tech. And Marine Lord lost nothing of import there. So Wolves coming up. And good eyeballs. We are approaching what I consider to be one of the greatest, sickest plays we've seen in Age of Empires 4. The type of play I wish we had more. But we'll get. Knights get the charge in. I can't believe he slips through like that. It is outrageous and criminal he got to do this. And there was a bit of panic, right? Wham didn't immediately go to just continuously building. Ends up hemorrhaging almost all villagers there. That's -10 on top of the 4 to begin with. And this is Desperation Town. Like, this is where the game feels absolutely over. You look at this and you're like, GG, bud. It was a good effort, but Marine Lord's on his way to the bank again. It's just Inevitability Town. But the Canadian does not give up. Marine Lord tries to retreat. Body blocks come through here. Keeps in position, gets the wall up on the south side. It's a full containment field. Blocks to the north, and then to the east as well. It's a full trap town. That right there, play of the tournament. Dog, I remember earlier on in the tournament, Viper had this sick moment early on where he's going to lose a villager, and he gets the most brutally swift quick wall up to protect that villager. And the crowd goes wild. And I remember sitting here seeing that as like, when we're there, when AoE 4 is there, when we have that, if we scale with that live audience, and a moment like that happens, people will be losing it. So, Marine Lord pretty much loses the entire army there. Catastrophic position, but Wham now needs to tech. And I love the way Marine Lord navigates this. The castle drop guarantees that if Wham was thinking all-inning, he cannot do a damn thing. And more than that, on a map like this, it perfectly sets up for the next step. Arbor Latrier. You're probably concerned about one thing from Wham right now. And that's War Elephants. Archers are irrelevant. If you've got Arbitrier, you don't care about archers because you have Pervice drop. So you have the shield, so you don't take damage. So the only thing that could probably kill you as a French player is going to be War Elephants. And Arbitrier at this discount rate is just... How do you contest this? Because the other thing you have to keep in mind is these walls are so damn frustrating on this map. I usually call the center the center walling area Heaven's Gate. Whoever walls that and secures that controls the game. Full stop. Which Wham just went all in after this, edging up. He gave Marine Lord a chance. The problem is, like, what are you all-in with? Like 20 archers, but you're going to be going in towards Castle Age Knights. So I see what people want from Wham, but I understand why he wouldn't. It's so hard to know if there's a secondary wave. It's so hard to know what's in there, because we see that Marine Lord built a castle for 900 stone. He could have instead have been building knights, archers, or whatever. And if Wham then sacks his army, he's going to be forced to like reinvest in the spears instead of just attacking. Because that north side castle hasn't been upgraded yet. I think still hasn't at this point. Which means his only reliable food source would be blocked. So I kind of get where Wham's coming from. Is like, because if he gets to this point and does get 1 or 2 War Elephants out, it's a backbreaker. And Marine Lord is still at this point, if we're being totally real, in a really weird position. His army's equalized out, but it's archers, knights. It's not this arbitrary yet. So War Elephants is a desirable win condition. I think the heartbreaking part for Wham, I don't know if he's scouted that castle still, let alone the archers behind it, the archery ranges. I was impressed by the discipline of Marine Lord here. Marine Lord sees the push coming on the guild hall, resists the temptation to overinvest in just keeping it alive. He trades out, yes, but it's going to be going down. But losing archer for archer isn't bad here. And now Wham is going into crossbowmen. And this is like building knights against French. They build them too, but they're better. Because look at the queue up. 10 arbitrary just got queued. This is the beginning of the strategy he needs to hold. So backs away off of that. I think for Wham, he's probably at that point breathing a sigh of relief. Like, he's in a really bad position, but at least he doesn't have to worry about economical landmark scaling as well. Problem is, he hasn't achieved the damage that matters. Right? Marine Lord is still ahead by an insane amount of villagers. To remember, French produce villagers quicker, and he has those 14 kills. Not just that. It's the fact that Marine Lord had the food to do both Knights and Arbors. He didn't even have to pick his poison here. So Clash starts to come in. Maybe a little bit premature out of Marine Lord, but at this point, he's mostly still just throwing away the archers, and the Arbors are scaling. And Wham. This part's a bit heartbreaking. Yeah, no, he wasn't able to steer quick enough because the elephants are slow. Right idea, though, and I love what he does as a follow-up. Goes to the wall to try and just grief him a bit. Because he sees arbors, he sees crossbows, plus knights, but he doesn't see a guild hall anymore, which means his opponent needs gold somewhere. So strategically, Wham is thinking the correct way about how to cut him off. But he doesn't get the wall off. Marine Lord gets back on there before he could actually block it entirely. And now he's too distracted to realize what's happening. He doesn't have the army to send down there either. Marine Lord is just kind of baiting him into a slog here. 19 crossbowmen, we're reaching the point where these elephants won't sustain. War elephants take a long time to heal up. The heal elephants aren't going to be able to carry that duty. So yeah, you see, it's still a little bit annoying with some of them. Most is fine. Quick reactions here. Marine Lord is almost instant. And watch what happens. It switches target as it gets just out of range. It doesn't get a single kill off of that. Farms are also now being set up. Marine Lord does a great job of this all the time in this mid-game. Gets those farms clumped down real fast. And it just felt like Wham. He was punting so many shots around the map, so many opportunities. But Marine Lord was swift on all of his responses. Didn't waste time getting back on the gold. Didn't hang around too long on the berries. Didn't overinvest around the gold and what he's going to keep there. He respected Wham at every point, despite the fact that Wham was down now by 50% of point. And so much more than that when you consider relics on top of it, right? It's like, yeah, at this point, I think the game begins to reach its stench of inevitability. We have at least got 300 food coming in here to kind of pad him a little bit. That's like having an extra, like, what, 10 villagers? But then as we get a bit deeper, the big fight comes. And we've now reached a count of arbitrary that's quite concerning. Because we've started stepping, the elephants can't lead. In fact, I don't know if that was an intentional pullback. He led with the heel elephants instead. But really well played by both players, man. I think until that raid that came in, I mean, you could imagine that. You probably don't get that wall in if the villager raid doesn't happen. But like, could you imagine the way he'd immortalize himself if he went on to win because of that? The ifs and buts and the cookies and nuts, right? But it shows you just how punishing RTSs can be. All it takes is 1 second of brilliance to decide a game early on. And Marine Lord found that brilliance and then found it in a greater bundle moments later. But at this stage, Wham's just going through the motions. You never want to give that match point situation over too easily. You want to feel like you gripped it until the very end. But the stench of inevitably begins to rise. Trebs also start to come in because, remember, at this stage, Wham has invested heavily in castles, so you want to get them down cheaply and easily. And I believe he'd repaired the guild hall at this point, if I'm not mistaken. Or is close to complete. So then he has that infinite food coming in. Yeah, it's back up. 480 food. This is the one-time cast. We're back to doing it before regularly. We're dipping our toe back in the water to see what's possible. I've said already, like, in a lot of ways, things are going to have to change. I mean, we don't have funding for a weekly series now, and I need to reassess how I approach time investment in general, because I was spending a lot of time on AoE 4 to not be able to put food on the table. So yeah, looking to find a healthier balance with AoE 4 is the way I describe it. That's my goal for 2026. Divide push coming in. Also a pivot into spears, which is rough against arbitraries. They have got the melee armor. Does get a nice hit on the Trebs, but you just see the DPS now. 2 bursts and an elephant's dead. And Beast drop means he can just camp here. Green Lord with the full Hodor. Trample gets activated at a weird time, but that's because he had the grouped elephants together, but the damage has been done. There's no healing coming through. There's no happy Dumbo story. We're not a Disney Channel movie here. This is just grim reality. The fact he was able to hold on this long with that economical deficit is impressive, but there's no stop on the chimp. What's up, Mr. Scan? Yeah, we're taking another shot at AV4 content. I mean, I missed, dude. I like, of course, like, you know, I remember Mirad asked me, like, on the LAN, he's like, do you not miss it? It's like, of course I miss it, dude. Like, I spent a huge chunk of my life investing in Age of Empires 4. So yeah, like, a lot of people ask if I come back. We're going to see how the shoe fits. It's hard. Like, it's hard to see the way, but we're trying to be positive. And I think one thing I said is, like, I'm trying to change my perspective on things. Like, in life, it's very easy to assess things and say why you can't do something. I'm trying to find the way to do it. I'm not really seeing it just yet, but we'll see how it goes. Have both things, bang out AoE fast and hill sliding shenanigans. Exactly. I think that also, like, I mean, I know some people are like, oh, the variety, whatever arc failed. To be honest, it didn't ever begin. Like, plans continuously got unraveled this year because of all the things happening in real life. So, like, I haven't had the time to even really invest there. So, yeah, there's a lot for me to figure out. A lot of things I need to rebalance in my life to get on point. Hopefully, we'll get it there. All right. In we go to one of the wackiest games, actually, in the finals. Game number 4, Japan versus Macedonians, and kind of a lot of mind games happening in this game about who wants to play what age and what way they want to do it. Wham! He has got the Japanese pick with the Dark Age Spearman opening, which is going to force a reaction out Marine Lord, which you don't see as often anymore, which is the Warlock. I feel like a lot of the time, Macedonian players are these big, puffed-up chest chads that say, I don't care about aggro. But, you know, even if you rush the Age 2, you're going to feel like you need to invest in something. And I think for Marine Lord, maybe part of the thought process here is it's much easier to just chill on the gold, get my extra techs, and also it allows him to see the extent of this. Because Wham, it looked like he was trying to kind of cultivate a reaction and got a mini one. He only went for the one Spearman. Because remember, the Japanese Raxes are cheaper. Another thing I love that Wham tends to do a lot of these civs, and done it here, was the deer on the back. Scouted it and went straight onto it. That's smart because in this matchup, both civs have the potential to rush towards castle and get knights. So by doing this, what you're doing, you're taking the risky resources first. It's almost like you're turning this into a race of who can get more sheep and then who has to come out of the base sooner, which we definitely see in this game, and thus be more punished. So Heptron beginning. Cool thing about Japan is, although we talked about the idea of rushing castle, this is actually a matchup where they can contest the feudal age, because if the Macedonians decide to go for mass cavalry, which makes sense because they've got the horseman that gives +2 damage, Japan also gets that differently. They have an extra melee tech compared to other civs in the game, but they also have got the bannerman that gives an aura to buff damage. So interesting detail to consider there is like Japan doesn't get left in the dirt in a horseman grade. To make matters even better, unlike Macedonians, Japan can get a pretty nifty economy to back them up, courtesy of that courage storehouse. A KP and Emma co-op screen still on the table too. Maybe? I don't know. We'll see. She's got to look after the kiddos, and then she's always at the point where like, I'm tired. And then she goes to bed early. But she doesn't go to bed early. She watches like 2 hours of vlogs. What was your beef with Dimon? My beef, and we talked about this, like, my beef was there's a lot of people whispering things in ears that just weren't true and whatever. And, I mean, like, he said this on stream, so it's not even, like, new news or whatever, I guess. I never saw it. But, like, there were some things said early about, like, for example, I don't even know who started this silly rumor, but someone had been telling him and other people that I got paid to run KPMM. Which I didn't, by the way, guys. Like, if there had been a wage involved in running KPMM, what happened around the start of this year would have sucked, but it would have been like, okay, at least I got something to keep going with. Instead, it was just like money lost, money lost. Because every penny I got for KPMM went to the players. There was a small fraction left over that went to admin costs, but even then, it didn't cover everything. So yeah. And that was my beef there, alongside a lot of weird talk about ultimatums, which I've talked with all parties involved, and nobody felt there was an ultimatum. Nobody felt there was a threat or anything. So yeah, very weird. And I think some people had basically told him that I was trying to get him fired, which he's also now seen through DMs was not the case. So yeah, like, Dumu side, I got no beef with him. I've always thought Dumu is one of the good ones. There's definitely, like, don't get me wrong, any scene has bad actors. I don't consider Dumu one of them. I think he just kind of got baited and sucked in by bad information. And I think it was good to have that talk for both of us, I think. So I did it for the love of the game? Yeah. Yeah, I just don't, like, I've been weighing on whether I still don't know if I will, because I just want to move on instead of focus on it more. But we'll see how things go. Like, it might be that I just do a clearing the air and just, like, getting all the facts out there. Because I remember I was talking to someone there. I don't know if they want to be known who they were. But they said, like, you know, a lot of people would have caught the start of my, like, last AoE 4 stream and not the end. And in the end, I explain a lot more what's going on. But yeah. Chat one update on my mum. Yeah, sure. So we had like a mixture. We had like a rubber banding of good and bad news. The good news of my mum is the tumor has shrunk immensely. It was the size of a 16-week fetus, and it's now the size of a golf ball. That's good. there was an unfortunate piece of news, literally, that I found out just days before going to London. Which was they opened her up to operate, and they can't operate. So that kind of sucks. Sucks big time. Like I told her, the goal is for us to focus on the positives. Like, yes, they basically, she has got a giant ass scar on her chest now where they opened her up just to say it's speckled everywhere, we can't operate. But the positive is she went from having something the size of like this inside of her to like, you know, this, whatever. So they're going to try and do more chemo and see how much more it can shrink. It sucks and is good at the same time, right? The focus now for all of us is to focus on the good instead of the bad. You know, the good is it is shrunk an insane amount, and screw the part about not being able to hack it all to pieces. Well, told her already. She'll beat this. She's got plenty of years left. There's way too much to do. Okay, so we can talk a little bit about this game now. So I kept watching this at this point. I was like, so where's the castle transition point? Because it felt like they were both goading each other to go for castle. And wham, this was the point where you could see he clearly intended to, right? He's already got the Uma Bannerman's going to be coming out in a few seconds. He's been gathering 7 on gold. And I think the pivot point for him is he started to notice Marine Lord was on the wide here, but he was also playing the Spearman, which would have been hard to breach. So you can't really get in there when it spears against your horseman. It feels like you put a lot more effort in to try and crack that at all. So he just takes a safe bet of attack up. But that does mean that you're inevitably going to be both doing this, because now Marine Lord Spearman have to guard because he's on that wide deer. He can't look to steer into the enemy base. He does, however, have a perfect place for a Golden Horn Tower. Another 5 years and they'll be able to remove stuff with lasers? Exactly. Like, there's probably more text coming and whatever. Who is spreading the rumors? Name and shame them? I don't have a full list of names. But, like, some of the people who are saying these things have at least stopped saying them from what I can see anyway, which is good. Yeah. It's like, so, like, I was... At first, I was probably coming across as weird with, like, Duma and Winston. I mean, I don't know. I hope Winston's okay with me. It felt weird for some reason. But, like, with Dimu, I just stayed out of his way. And I even said to him on the final day, after he'd done finals, you know, we found each other and we talked. For me, I just wanted to stay out of his way because I didn't want whatever the hell was going on with us to affect what he needed to do at the event. I didn't want to do that. Same reason I've just avoided really talking much about RB and everything else in the build-up, and didn't really publicize too much my going away. Like, I didn't want to negatively impact the event. That's always been the thing to really carry forward in people's minds. I just wanted to succeed as best it could. Because yeah, like the rebel people aren't the ones I'd hold any ill will with. As weird as some people might find that to say. So yeah, Dum and me, we're squared off. I think we're fine now. It's a nice little bit of raid damage in here. Wham did get the 1 kill connect. Tech Out's going to be coming through soon, and Marine Lord, of course, going to be following up. But the Golden Horn Tower will be propped between the 2 tiers. We'll just speed up, because there's not going to be any fight too soon. And this is the other nice thing, actually. Like, it's the layer in the defenses, because now it's not just the Golden Horn Towers, it's the Varangian Strongholds that also stop a few units from just littering their way in. And Wham does go into the Knights. Now, this is where the game got really interesting to me, thinking about the dynamics here, because Knight versus Ridari used to be really good for Ridari, then they received a few nerfs, and then Samurai players, rather, got better at using Mounted Samurai. Because Mounted Samurai, if you edge the beginning of the fights and you poke and kind of retreat, you can do better with deflective armor. But also, this detail, we started to see Onimusha being used a lot more by Japan. It's a great solution to Ridari strats, because mass Ridari may sound like a mass, but there's not that many of them, right? It's more quality over quantity. And the cool thing about that is it means that Onimusha as a burst solution for each of them isn't terrible. And when you add in the fact that Mounted Samurai with an Uma Bannerman buff do comparative DPS to Ridari, it makes a lot of sense to take this approach. Now, the reaction usually from a Macedonian player is to start thinking about archers, but that also then opens the door for Japanese archers. And this is where there's this crazy polarizing style of dynamics to consider. With Onimusha targeting Ridari, you don't really feel like you're ever wasting damage to get the kills. With Bog Mafr, the Macedonian archer, versus the Japanese Yumi, you feel like you're wasting a lot of damage as it gets bigger. When it's small, not too bad, but when it's bigger, you feel like you're overkilling a lot. While Yumi has this polarizing effect where as it scales bigger, as long as it's not an armored unit, they aren't overkilling. Right? Because there's so many shooting that, like, the damage is lower. You reach the point where you hit that sweet spot, easy peasy, when you're like 40, 50, 60, whatever. For the same cost investment as the Bog Mafur, you're taking down more units than your opponent is. What is interesting to me is, like, in theory, Macedonian archers should feel really good against knights because of the penetration. But I think players struggle on where to use it because it's a very dangerous skill. If you misuse that skill, your opponent sees it and immediately retreats, or if your positioning is not perfect, they immediately engage. So yes, it's a very hard ability just to tick the box. So Marine Lord goes a different way with the Mass Spears. What's interesting about this is, like, if this was, say, a Vortex, I would probably expect to see him trying to add in Onubu. It's not a terrible idea against what you're seeing. A Ridari would be the kind of concerning part, but, like, you know, something like the full ladies build could work. Onimusha plus Onubu. Flash coming through here, though. Marine Lord able to just square him off and push him away. But the problem now is by going into Mass Spears, you are going to encourage that mass unit, right? And Marine Lord's challenge is the food is starting to run out fairly fast. So he needs to start thinking at some point, when am I getting farms? Because with the way this should play out now, if your opponent sees Spears, he's going to go Yumi. And if he goes Yumi, you can go Ridari. Ridari, hella pricey. Overall Mountain Samurai better than Ridari? What, you mean cost stat calculation? Yes. Like 1-to-1 Ridari should be better, right? But the other thing you have to remember is why Ridari were usually taking a dump on Mountain Samurai in the early days is you keep scaling and scaling and scaling until you've got so much extra armor. What is intriguing about this matchup is there was a point where actually, before the Ridari got nerfed, you as a Japanese player, your goal was kind of just to keep dancing around the map and then go Imperial. Because Macedonian isn't really a civ that likes rushing Imperial. It's one of the big kind of concerning limitations. And I haven't seen anyone find a build that works for it yet. They can't rush Imp like half the civs in the game could. Like, there's argument that Macedonians might be, what, like, worst, second worst, third worst civ in the game for going H4 rush. Is it charge and deflective army, I guess? Sure, but you have to respect Ridari's chase down potential, right? And they do attack quicker, their base damage is higher, especially if they go for Rob Fire, which is, of course, expensive. Is this finals match? Yes, this was the finals in London. I think some people could have easily checked for KP before commenting on things. Yes, they could have. In some cases, I even reached out and told them. Like I said, I didn't help that whole situation. I wasn't sure what I could or couldn't say. I still is all weird. So Marine Lord really has kind of exposed his comp in terms of what he's doing. And now we start to get into that Yumi territory. The crafty challenge for Wham is to get enough archers out quick. KP camera while casting nice touch. Yeah, I don't know how people would feel about it. We'll have to see over time. Weighing up maybe a way we can have it up there for when we're casting live games, we'll see. But now remember what we said about what's happening here. You've got Bog Mafur, you've got Yumi coming, right? Other thing is, your Ashura drops. Has Wham gone for one the TC yet? It doesn't look like it, no. He might consider it soon. Like third, fourth, most players do go for that Ashura drop. It depends on how long you think the game's going to go and if you have enough food in reserve on the map. Flash coming in here, Marine Lord just wiping out the limited spears that seem to be left here as a residual effect of the earlier ages. And remember, Wham doesn't necessarily want the fight right now because like the awkward part is his Yuumi aren't juiced. He has got the Bannerman, but he hasn't got the ranged decks. You can see he's actually lagging behind in that regard. He's just got Steeled Arrow 1 coming in now. Undermesh, of course, being complete. On the other side, for Marine Lord, there's a lot more scale potential, but it takes a lot more resources. But this is the nice thing once you start adding Ridari. Because once you start adding in Ridari, you're getting the silver necessary to get what you want. This is why most strategies revolve around Ridari. It's not just that we are in a Knight meta still. It's that for you to get that core useful mechanic, you need to be getting silver. I'm just trying to force a fight around towers. Sprinter placement is going to be brought down momentarily. The Knight count is concerning here. And you just see the value of the Yuumi. They wipe through this so fast. Only a few spearmen left over. Marine Lord may have overstayed his welcome. Yuumi now go for the dive pass, looking for the crossbowman. An easy target fire for them. Another cool thing is, like, look at what happens to the retreat now. By positioning himself like this, Wham is baiting all range fire into his trash unit. Meaning no crossbow fire, no extra penetration archer shots are going onto the Knights. He leaves the best till last for the chase down. Ridari Champ also being dead, or almost dead rather, means it's going to be very hard for you to keep start stepping like this. Because he should just go in and get clubbed down. So loses the movement speed, loses the momentum, and this is the break point. You can feel it now. Look at the food income. Both of them are struggling, yes. But really, Marine Lord is in desperate need of some sort of front line. There's enough Mad Samurai left over that you start to get concerned as the Frenchman, especially when you know you now have to find additional food sources. And if I remember correctly, at this stage, Marine Lord had like maybe 4 or 5 farms in his base, was adding in like another 5 or 6. Meanwhile, this is the benefit of Kura Storehouse. Kura Storehouse just has you set up for that already. And because you've been adding in the Bannerman layers, your farm transition is already going to feel a lot nicer. Especially when you compare it to the fact that Marine Lord has not got a single food tech in this game. Hasn't had a use for it. He's been doing deer. But he can't do boar now. They're too far out. Wham had both his Bannerman, Poppy didn't. Exactly, Mundo. You're 100% correct there. I remember that in that particular game, I was like, wait, Poppy Boar seems to have Trip Yuumi, no Uma. But he had enough Knights to still slay on that north side of that one. Uma Bannerman does add in a lot of damage, remember. It's 15% damage buff on a unit that's doing about 24 damage now. He hasn't upgraded melee. But even just 24 damage is an extra, like, 3.5. So calming moment comes in. In terms of, like, what we're seeing as a resurge, the concern here now is Marine Lord needs even more spearmen to hold back this Night Wave, and the Yuumi spam is just insanely unreal. Yuumi is that unit that I look at each time. I'm like, I can't believe once upon a time this was a meme unit, you know? It just feels so healthy at this point in the game. Like, once you hit the castle transition, it's one of the surprisingly effective archer units of the Third Age. It's mainly because of the 1-2 punch. If I go Knights, you feel like you need to build spears. So calming moment here. We have got the Runist Blinding coming in, which, of course, debuffs the DPS of your opponent when you hit them with archers. Problem there is the game strat for Wham is now these Yuumi in mass shoot onto you. So, like, you're not getting as much value out of the debuff. It's for the Knights, though, right? So, like, debuffing the Knights is a lot of damage lost. But you're not really looking at this as a debuff out against archers to be archers. What's up, Huffy Tuffy? Appreciate the sub, buddy. Welcome back to the Swarm. Thank you, thank you. Trip Sacred Site now locked in. So Marine Lord probably starting to feel a little bit starved of map control, right? Lost the Relic game as well. We've got 2 TC from Wham. We don't have eco-scaling from Marine Lord. Reminder that Macedonians is one of the tragic seers when it comes to economy. They don't have any inherent mechanic built into them that gives them good economy. The closest thing is the silver, right? But that's meant for militaristic efforts. It is an extra resource, but you wouldn't really compare it to, you know, most obvious ones would be things like Abbasid with a golden age that gives 15% gathering, or French with a faster producing TC, or Japan that can get that in age 3. And we finally have Wham paying attention to his melee tech, so that's starting to come through. I think he just kind of maybe forgot about it all this time, because he has had a decent amount of knights for some time. Marine Lord just going for the decap. Does get the runestones down, but just look at that raw backline. Wham! Over double the range firepower. He doesn't necessarily need to just stand right on top of you for a fight. He's going to do it anyway because he sees the numbers are good enough. There's nothing to deal with the Knights. And this is how we got our game number 5. Clean, elegant execution by Wham on the Japanese. Great understanding of the matchup. And just forcing Macedonians into weird new territories to try and find solutions. Radari spam, not so easy to get away with anymore. And there's the farms we talked about. Marine Lord, when he's in control of the game, he's very good at finding these mass farm transitions. When he has control of the map. Wham understood that perfectly. Just didn't give him the room, didn't give him the breathing or the space. And finds the perfect moment to smother him out and force that G5. A G5, in many ways, felt tragic. Thanks, Toby. What's up, Mitski? Been watching the other stuff too. I think the goal is like I'm probably gonna have a second channel for the other stuff. Well, I think stream-wise, I'll probably just like say whatever we'll do it all in one channel. But in terms of YouTube, I think it makes sense. Is I'll probably have another channel come for that. Because we have got a few videos that I need to start uploading. I think the nice thing is actually the time away was very educational and like shorts as well, short form. Because I don't really know. There might be a place for short form in AoE 4, but like the problem is with games like Age of Empires, the pacing and everything makes them a lot trickier for good short form content.
Is that it now? Is that what we call it?
Right. Lots of ice. Who knows? Who knows? Ooh, and finals. There it is, Marine. Wham.
And in we go. Deciding game on LAN. Grand Finals best of 5 between Marine Lord and Wham at Red Bull Wallow Londinium. And this was a tragic ending to Grand Finals. No crashes, no controversy. The players didn't get up with boxing gloves on and try to beat each other up or anything like that. No. The nature of the drafts. Let's get into this, folks. Iabids versus HRE. Used to be on like land maps, kind of like 55-45 matchups, slightly in favor of Iabids. Has changed in more recent times, and Frisian Marshes is a pretty peculiar map here for a few different reasons. HRE can do a lot of damage on this map, courtesy of Minework Mass Horseman type strats, because of the fact your opponent's going to be spreading out on the map, looking to just stack up more docks. The tricky part, though, is while you Horsemen, they can Camel. And Camels can balance out that element and negate the advantage you get. What is intriguing here is we'll start to see the pond play coming up from both players. It used to be HRE players would go for a Dark Age Rush, and there would have been an argument on a map like this. He does add it in, but he done it as a secondary layer to the cake, which gave Marine Lord time for this play. We're going to speed it up a bit. We see the House of Wisdom coming through, and the tech up choice, Reinforcement. I was a little bit surprised by this. I thought he'd be going for the Dervish, because technically Dervish scales insanely well. The debuff, they're very hard to snipe. I think there was maybe a bit of a chief concern that, especially against HRE, though, it's not as easy to stay away from your opponent. And I also think for Marine Lord, there was an element of not wanting to encourage Archer play too strongly, because, of course, if you see Dervish, the Cambulances, that heal everyone, your first instinct is I need something to target them out. So it does go Reinforcement Wing instead. Another cool factor here, it's possible that Marine Lord scouted out the dock, and that informed the play, because with Reinforcement Wing, you get the ability to build siege with your cavalry. So if Wham was doing a greedy build here instead, for example, it would now give you the means to build a ram and take out his dock supply. So we'll speed this up a bit, because it's just going to be a bit of early burn play. There wasn't any outpost rush or over commitment coming through either. Dervish makes Archer even better. All damage will stick. That's my point. By going Dervish, you basically encourage Archer play, which if your plan is to go Desert Raiders anyway, it's like a double downer, right? Because the only solution really to dealing with Dervish is to add in archers. Although the HRE spears in particular, because the movement speed are also an existent threat. So tech up's coming through. And he does go Minework, which is a good adjustment. We had an HRE game early in the tournament where we saw an Archon, and even the casters were a little bit curious and questioning of it. Minework, very good here, but it's not necessarily just about melee. It should be in this game, but the cool thing is if you have to transition to range formats, never underestimate the value of how cheap all those technologies are. right? The timings on them, the value you can get out of those first few military units is huge. So we'll keep speeding into his tech up, and we now at this point can see very clearly what Marine Lord is doing. This is a mass Desert Raider strategy. He's expanding the docks because he only pays 75 wood each. This is going to give him the necessary economy to keep bloating. And I love this idea from him because Desert Raider strats can also seem very memey. You wouldn't expect to see them in a Grand Finals game, but the value proposition here, folks, is that on a map like Frisian, you need mobility. Now, H3 Spears can kind of be mobile, but ideally you're still thinking Horsemen. Horsemen versus Desert Raiders is a glass cannon versus glass cannon type effect, it feels like. They melt through each other very fast. The difference maker then becomes who can have more food power to push out more units. And cheeky moment here. So close, but the Spearman could not get the stab in. Marine Lord able to shuffle that worker all the way home. And even adds in a few horsemen. The strategies taken by both sides, by the way, is so... It's so Canadian. I don't know how else to say it. Like, we talked earlier in the series about the Canadians loving their infantry with civs like Abbasids. And in this game, WAM opts for a super cool, but so hard to pull off game strat. You see, because most people would be like, hey, let's just go mass horsemen because he has mass Desert Raiders. WAM decides he needs the bigger strike power of mass spearing to beat horsemen. Which does make sense, because at this stage in the game, if you start seeing Marine Lords adding in horsemen, which he can because stables can build either of these two units, and you go and fight with just horsemen, all pikes becomes irrelevant because the Desert Raider debuff gets rid of the bonus damage, right? So you're just in kind of a neutral slog. And at that point, like a few Desert Raiders occasionally microing around and striking down with swords is going to give an edge. So instead, WAM, while adding in a few ponies, will start to lean more and more towards spears as it goes. Marine Lord, in the meantime, is just staying full cavalry, and this is the dynamic change that matters. Because WAM continues to add in spears instead of just cavalry, he's going to start to forfeit over docks. The other thing is WAM's play almost looks greedy. I don't think I'd say that's what it was, though. I think it's more just a timing difference of Marine Lord being swifter out the gate, allowed him to start doing important economical damage. Because at this stage, this is where you start to add in fishing boats off the third. He hasn't got any value out of that dock at this point whatsoever. Trying to be constructive, how would you change the draft format to avoid situations like this? Probably an extra pick in there, I'd say. I think if you reach the end of the draft in a sniping format, I don't think it's crazy to say you could have three civs to pick from, because you're going to pick two of them and one's going to get sniped anyway. So you're still funneling it. The problem with the snipe system here is you have 6 civ picks, but when you get the final game, before you even enter that game, like out of the snipe menu, your opponent's going to know which civ you're going to have in the game, right? And through a logical process of elimination, it's pretty obvious what both players should get, right? So that would be a good start. Maybe even by the time you're getting this deep in the draft, you have 4 civs to pick between. Because once again, like that sounds crazy on an old draft format, but we use sniping in Age of Empires 4, which makes it less crazy. Like this game and the outcome from the player's perspective kind of felt fairly inevitable unless a crazy Hail Mary is thrown. Not to say you can't get that in AoE4, but I think AoE4, it's a different style of wacky plays. It's not like when you hear about these StarCraft, like, you know, base rushes and then creeping like a proxy racks type thing. That doesn't happen as much and it feels a lot less balanced well in terms of risk-reward. The Clash comes in and you can see how this is already becoming about micro. WAM is stress testing one of the greatest micros Age of Empires 4 has ever seen in that department because it's all he can do. And Marine Lord, so far, is passing the test. He takes a lot of damage from the Desert Raiders, but as long as they don't die, he does not care. He's starting to snipe down the injured parties. The Spearman count is not that high. What WAM is doing may seem weird to some people, throwy. Why is he not adding his own range units to kill the Desert Raiders? It would just be fluff to be killed by horsemen. His goal is to use his horsemen to absorb fire to get close enough to the speeds. It is a cool idea, but the problem is it doesn't pan out as you plan when the eco is inflating the way Marine Lord is and when he's microing like he is. Yeah, it's just tick box, tick box, tick box, right? Marine Lord already now has military advantage. He's scaling into a hybridized unit, meaning he can destroy in melee, but also destroy at range, which is also capable of then burning down docks. So this becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because at this stage, WAM does not have the breathing room to go back and reset the strat entirely, because if he does, he loses economy. But he lacks the capacity to go counter-raid He also lacks the capacity to directly contest. So he has to lose something while he tries to reblow. And we are going to see him try to go for a gamble here. Demo ship has been queued up. He's hoping to catch those Desert Raiders before they run away. And the Observer should be catching it. Pulls them away at the right moment. No gain. A demo ship detonation there is worthless, right? Now with a pond on fire, you're not going to run a villager out here anytime soon. That's way too dangerous. So yeah, demo gets sniped, fishing boats go down, and it begins to just snowball. Underwhelming in some ways end is how people are going to feel, but you really have to give a lot of praise to Marine Lord's micro. Desert Raider micro requires an insane amount of attention, and what you're seeing from Wham here is the correct approach from his position. He's trying to distract so you can't focus on it. The counterplay to mass Desert Raider strats is too much to deal with. The problem is, Marine Lord is seeing each of these problems and giving a weighed response. He's not overreacting. He's on stage, feeling the pressure, but he's not letting it crack him at all. This is the composure of a man who's been doing this for far too many years. Far too many to get spooked out that easily anyway. So we see a reblob in the Horseman again. Emphasis on how we get the spears in. One rough part was I think the previous fight, Wham didn't have his melee tech 1. It is there now. Has also got the undermesh. The Marine Lord, he doesn't really care about those extra techs. It doesn't matter as much. An extra +1 melee damage doesn't matter much here because your Desert Raiders should only be meleeing when they're fighting Horsemen. And when they are, they do, I think it's 26 damage. So it's so high, it doesn't matter. Make no mistake about it as well. Navigating the way Marine Lord is here is difficult. And you're seeing with the health bars how risky it is. Because of how quick Wham's entire army is, this could easily backfire. But the body blocks, this is what we talk about the Horsemen. He tries to get behind them. This is a sick grab. Probably the first time where you look and you go, okay, that was a great fight for Wham. But Marine Lord now, at the aftermath of this, is over 10 economy ahead. He also took a trade there that was much better for him. It balanced things out, really, towards the end here. And this is the heartbreaking point. It's like, in an ideal world, you have the economy to afford a few archers to finish these guys off. Instead, he's now ripe for the picking. And some people are probably going, well, why doesn't Wham just run away? You can't run away from these. The Spearmen are never going to be quicker than the Desert Raiders. You'll just get killed. So he sacks a few, sends the rest away. And this is where the exhaustion starts to kick in on your economy. Wham has got 850 food, but the ponds aren't safe and aren't operable. He's lost his starting pond because it ran out of food. He's basically got fishing on 2 ponds. Meanwhile, Marine Lord has got fishing on 4, 5 ponds at any time. It's a lot. And this is where it just gives him free entry to the next stage. Wham had the right idea. He goes in for a dive. Horseman count is not that high, though. Instead, he's left with a lot of unarmored spearmen to try and break this. And also, he splits the attention. Yeah, so keeps Desert Raiders away, but this now means he knows he's going to be losing those spears. Does a good job of pulling them back. Tech up's almost ready. The good news is Marine Lord can't go for it right now due to the gold harassment. Bad news is it's an expensive dive. Wow. It's weird just... You look at the military count, they're both at 20, right? But when you feel out the way these fights have been going, it's been Wham struggling to be able to get them all in one position versus a Kajillion count, right? Like, it's hot in Egypt right now. It's mating season. Look at it. We're at the point where they can even snipe out the Horseman. That's not meant to happen. The army value difference really tells the full tale, doesn't it? 1.4k versus 3.9. In some ways, while this was a bit of an underwhelming final game because of the draft situation, it also kind of felt right that this is the way Marine Lord makes his way across the finish line. Micro. Something the man has been praised for many years. Big part of why French is his signature civ. We've always known that this is one of his grandest capacities. Clean play and micro. Reliable play and micro. Crazy part is he went for something a little bit more chaotic. The danger point, I guess you could say, of using Desert Raiders. But still ticks that box. Loggy Wing now on the way. Game starts to feel inevitable at this stage. This is what I was talking about, the idea of using Spearmen as your kill and Horsemen as your absorb. You can see it's a cool concept in theory, but it just takes so long to get on top of your opponent. And once you run out of horsemen, enjoy a slow death. With 60 seconds out, Wham, he did find the food injection by going on the deer, but he won't be able to tech. Anyone's like, why does he not just tech? He could be going up in a minute. The problem now is he has no army left to defend his deer, so he has to keep producing. This is what we call the self-fulfilling prophecy of Snowball in RTS. You can't stop. Because if you stop, you lose a different way. I mean, look at this. He's got 20, 25 villagers out there on food. Ram's coming in just to complete the docks. We'll speed this up a little bit now. Loggy Wing's just 10 seconds away. Desert Raider upgrade doesn't take long after that. I was impressed that Wham got the food together for one last Ura of the Horseman. But it's always just not there. Like, the crazy thing is, I don't remember the last time it felt like Wham had more army in the fight. It might just be the deceptive size of the camels, but DPS-wise, there's no doubt Marine Lord. If we had a damage done chart, I think that would say everything it needs to. Desert Raider upgrade already queued. And it's just going to be the last... Oh, yeah. I love this part as well. He's like, oh, actually, that's just Horseman. And you see exactly why you can't just trust Pony Power. Because he just goes straight into melee. Isn't it destroyed value? Destroyed value doesn't really tell you, like, raw damage done in one set. You can have a lot of units that are almost dead. Right? Because I'd be curious if we looked at damage done, how close the exchange is. When you look at the health bars of Marine Lord, right? Like, he's done a great job of just not losing units. And here we go. Melee mosh pit. That'll be the GG. You see this, the lean back by Wham. He knows it's all over. It's an undeniable champ. 3-time champion. But nothing else, folks. The thing we can say that's bloody impressive is this is the hardest, the closest it's ever been. The toughest is I just sweat it out on a Rebel stage. Makes you wonder what will happen. Right, let's turn that down a bit. Good to have you back, KP. It was discussing seeing all the slander and manhunt from people maybe for over joke. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's something. I mean, like the final finale sound all right. Like, I'll have to say it again, I'm sure. I wondered about doing a clear in the air video. Maybe I still will. I'll see how I feel. It's a dumb comment. I shouldn't have made it. I wasn't really thinking properly at the time. I didn't even remember the follow-up comments. I just remember the first one anyway. So I didn't even clock that. I just wish someone had reached out and then maybe fixed it. I will say for those, like, I know there's been a lot of talk about like an apology. There was an apology literally sent over privately. But I decided I didn't want to do anything publicly anymore until I got confirmation from someone else, because what I'd been doing had only been making things worse. If that makes sense. So yeah, no ill will against, like, just really reiterate this, no ill will against the players there, the casters there, Red Bull themselves. They're not the one I would have any beef or problem with. I met with some of the Red Bull people and talked with them, and unless, I mean, they could be fibbing to me. I don't think they are. I don't think I feel like for them, they could just tell me to screw myself if that was the case. It was a heartbreaking, unfortunate situation in their eyes, and they didn't want it to go that way at all in any way or form. So I don't hold any ill will. I hope I'll be able to work with them in the future, because I consider some of the people on that team to be good friends, wonderful people. So yeah. But I don't know. I'll see how I feel in the next week or two, and whether it feels like there needs to be a clear and air video. I didn't help it. Other people didn't help it. I might, like, I want to mainly just focus on good stuff instead of letting that be the defining factor. You know what I mean?
I could not hear him in my ear. I have no idea. I just needed this.
Whoops. Little hot mic there. I feel like this map always plays something like this. At the moment, yeah, because the meta, people discovered, like, Horseman, Cav, way to go. Weren't you actually able to watch the game properly in London? The screen seemed rather small. How big? The screen was pretty big. I was originally in one of the booths, but then I went upstairs. In one of the booths, which is meant to be the VIP areas, unfortunately, you've got these pillars here. And if you don't have a good seat, the pillars actually get in the way, which sucks. It's just one of those things that you don't think of when you're organizing the event, and then it hits you, sort of thing, right? Because, like, you know, people go there all the time and never mention the pillars because when they do, like, what you're seeing with the pillars is you'll normally have this giant stage and you'll have the orchestra and you see everything you need to. But the TV was behind that. But that's like maybe my one nitpick about the viewing experience is like, yeah, because you're looking at, like, you'll be looking at the orchestra or whatever if you're going for any other show. Not so much the screen. But that screen, yeah, if you had like a bad seat in one of the booths, you wouldn't be able to see it. But it's like a minor nitpick. It's one of those things like, damn, yeah, no, you wouldn't realize it until you're there and you'd organized it as Red Bull.
We are nearing the Age of Empires 2 Grand Finals. I get the sense that we're all ready for that.
No, so he's fine. So he does a great job of what she does. There does need to be a video, just a concise script one that at least addresses misinfo. I'll think about it. Like, my thing is, I've also talked with some people, and the feeling was like a mixture of there will always just be people that are on your side already and that aren't, and this isn't going to change anything either way, sort of thing, right? And it's also just like, instead of just having something there that is just etched eternally against your name either way, it's just like rather focus on doing the good things than like focusing on the bad things with the chronicle you leave behind, if that makes sense. I mean, the thing you have to keep in mind is for the AoE4 part, they're not following the game, but that's always going to happen. Like, it's just a different style, different approach. You have to be balanced in how you try to involve Age of Empires 4, because I'm going to say the thing that people don't want to hear, but it's the truth. And, you know, it takes time to earn anything else but that. We aren't what Red Bull Wallow is. Right? Like, it's an Age of Empires 2 event that we're trying to find ways to make an inclusive AoE 4 event and Myth event at times. But it takes time, it takes effort. And that's tricky. I mean, the thing is, like, if there was more time or whatever, what you probably do instead is you just involve an analyst or whatever. Because, like, one of my big things I was trying to push for was to hopefully find a way that we could have been back involved by having a panel and an analyst part. Which, by the way, I think Duma would have slayed at. And I think he felt the same as well. Like, he'd done a great job casting, but he would have, like, nailed panel and analysis with, like, Riley perfectly. But the thing that people maybe don't know is they didn't have any time. Like, even on AoE 2, there wasn't really that much time between games and panel or whatever, all these other things, right? Because you have limited hours that you can be in, like, the Odeon Lux. You have absolute limited hours you can be in the Royal Albert Hall. Because not only do you have to set everything up, you have to pull everything down. All has to be complete within the day, because, like, Albert Hall's not going to give you more days, right? So, like, and even if they were, the budget then expands by an extra 150,000 or whatever. So there's, like, multiple issues there that makes it very difficult to have everything that would be perfect. You have to work what you got. And the reason I get that out of the way before I talk about this, that's why, like, to the point of, like, if you think that Riley and Zoe aren't AoE4, like, aficionados that know as much as, like, me or know as much as Marino, Jamu, and all these players, of course they don't. That's not their job. A good host doesn't necessarily have to know the game. A good host has to know how to get the most out of the people they work with that may know the game. But this is a different environment than that. You're not in an environment where you're being given this crown jewel of knowledge, like a mister on stage that's going to talk for an hour and you just need to pluck the info out of him. So you have to balance your job very differently. A good host does that. A good host is able to utilize the tools around him to present the show well. I think they've done an absolutely fine job of that. Like, you know, some people who would probably want them to have been like some sort of crazy analysis person, that wasn't going to happen. It doesn't make sense for that to happen. Much what the host said about the AoE4 players seemed like it was written by AI. I think they just went like, well, two ways, right? You either do it kind of broad stroke, things you kind of know, or you go the other way of like you maybe say things that are inaccurate.
Sure, got me a bit nervous. Let's see how I can
I think it is what it is. Like I said, this is an Age of Empires 2 event that Age of Empires 4 is a part of. And that's fine. Like, you know, I think people often forget this about Red Bull Wololo, which is when you go and look at how many editions there has been. Like, there was 5 editions. That was only 2. Then we got the biggest slice of the pie at Legacy, and the numbers did not justify that. And then Renato dialed it back maybe a little bit too far, but then Londinium is a step in the right direction. And the good news is, when you look at the stats breakdown, boom. Age of Empires 2 broke its record. Age of Empires 4, I'm pretty sure, broke its record. This is impressive beyond belief. You guys really need to clock just how big of a deal this is. This happened in a year where Twitch's overall viewership got cut by, I think it's 14%. 14 to 18%. It was down compared to 2025. Despite that plummet in viewership over the last 2-3 years, because Twitch has continuously year after year gone down, Red Bull Wololo posted a record. Almost an all-time record. It was only beaten, I think, by Legacy's Age of Empires 1 viewership, and that's because Southeast Asia goes crazy, and that was only by a few thousand views. That's an incredibly good sign for the entire franchise as a whole, and the potential to get Red Bull back again in the future. So I think like this was a step in the right direction, and hopefully we'll see Age of Empires 4 bigger and more present in the future. But it's on us to keep growing it. It's on us to keep getting it in the right direction if we want to see more events of this scope and scale. But yeah. Let me catch up with chat while we have this in the background. Red Bull is an AoE2 tournament, just happy that they invite AoE4 in some form. Exactly. And like these were good games. Dude, I was there. And I'm just going to honestly, objectively say it. Done the best what I could with the cast of it. But if we're being totally real, the El Renato Grand Finals sucked. They were a wash. They were a stomp. It was not even close. Mythology made us look bad. That's what I said at the time. That was a 3-1. Sure, like, it was a 3-0. But, like, you get what I mean? Like, I could feel what I could do with the cast on that as well. Like, Mythology, like, was able to show more. Unfortunately, with the meta we were in and the design of it all, like, the finals of 4 sucked for Renato. Like, dude, like bronze, like El Renato finals bronze, Londinium AoE4 finals conk. That's the scale of difference we're talking here, right? It was huge. I should just let my heart out and say it how it is. I am saying how it is. Dude, I've been honest about this. Of course, like, you know, what do you want to hear? Like, I wanted to be there and work on that. Of course I do, dude. I love multiple scenes. I do AoE2 hosting. I do AoE forecasting and hosting. I freaking love that and wish I could have been part of that. But I can, what, you want me, I could sit here and wow about it. Who cares? Ifs and buts and cookies and nuts, right? Then every day would be Christmas. Instead, I'd rather analyze and break down why certain things were done and what could have been done differently. Like, so for example, if I was on this event, I probably would have done what I'd done for the other Red Bulls, which is I would go around before the event and ask all the players their opinions, document it, and then send that across to all the casters, hosts, and they can do with it what they want if they want to do anything. But there's only so much time you can do all these different things, the different skits, and honestly, like, in a lot of ways, like, the hosts didn't have as much time on the stage as they have at previous ones, I think. There wasn't as much time to talk about things, even for AoE2. This team can really push these numbers up for AoE4 if they were really invested. Yeah, I think it's like, the important thing now is like, so like, let's say Red Bull happens again. Gataga team need to reach out early to Red Bull and see about getting them on site and go from there, sort of thing. AoE2 casters could also push the numbers up with using the right tag. I mean, yes, but I don't even know how much they're even looking. So I can see it from their POV. If like AoE4's happening, right, and then AoE2's happening afterwards, and like, let's say I'm Dave and I'm getting ready to do my cast straight after AoE4. I'm not thinking about going into my channel and changing a stream tag for you. The feedback there would be like, I don't know, have a mod that has a command to do that if you haven't already. But like, for me personally, I'm focused on the job I'm about to do. Remember what I said about like in other streams, other scenes, I don't even look at like Twitch chat or whatever. I focus on like doing my job in production. Yeah, like that, but like expansive within that. Like it's a small. It matters to you guys. I get it, but like when you're there and you're doing your job, it is a very tiny piece of your day compared to everything else that definitely matters.
Wow, what a match.
Anyone whose job is to report, analyze the viewer numbers is taking that into account.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable. I'm so nervous right now. I can only imagine how they feel. I can only imagine how much I'm making it worse because they can.
Felt really petty by AOE2 casters. Dude, you say that like some. I'm not gonna say names. I don't know if they want. You know, like some of the casters have said they actually really like AOE4. They think AOE4 is a great game, but the audience likes AOE2. It's like, dude, if I go stream StarCraft tomorrow, a lot of you are gonna hate that because you like what you like, and that's fine, right? So they just got to be real. Like I don't think they hate the game. I think they see the merit of it. You know, like when I done some AoE2, those guys were nothing but welcoming, and they didn't like when I done Garrison, they had no problem with AoE4 being there. It wasn't like they've taken our event. No, they were happy to see AoE4 was having its own thing going on. You know?
As someone who permanently lives on his computer,
I think sometimes people envision, and I'm not gonna say like every person in every scene is not toxic. Every scene will have its toxic individuals, and I'm sure we all have the ones in mind in our head. But like, everyone doesn't hate everyone. Sadly, we do live in a time where it seems like when you look at what happens on social media or whatever, everyone's doom scrolling and cheering the failures of other things. But behind the scenes, it's not how a lot of us feel. You know? We might be like, hey, AoE free, wow, wow, wow. But like, I don't spitefully wish AoE free bad. I played a little bit and I see quirky things for it. I think from a modding standpoint, it's a really cool game, for example. But like, you know, you don't then see me casting AoE free games on this channel. AoE2 pros seem more professional than pros. You kind of have to be, right? I think we've got like in 4, we've got this mixture of amateurs that just like haven't experienced it outside. Well, they're not amateurs now, but they were amateurs. They haven't experienced outside. Or people that have come from like much bigger scenes or whatever. And it's a very weird kind of like rubber banding effect. For 2, you've got people that have lived and breathed this game for many years, and they've only lived and breathed this game as a pro career, and they've had to come through the most grassrooty of grassrooty stuff. To the extent, like, even when you look at Red Bull Wallow's earlier ones, where it's like $30,000 for a Red Bull event. Can you imagine that? That's crazy. Look, for years, it was like that. And then, you know, Myth had this. I think that's also, I think like Myth, I'd never met a bad or toxic person or whatever, because they just had to suck it up and get on. I'm sure there are, but the ones I've met, the ones that like moved the top of the crop and whatever else, like, they're good people, because like sometimes when scenes of that, I've said it before, like I think everyone needs to support everyone, and the toxicity just needs to stop wherever it may be, because when you're this small, you can't afford to take a crap on other people, because any loss is a big loss and a bad loss. That makes sense, right? It's why like I'm really big on the idea of an RTS hub event, of like a coming together of multiple RTSs from multiple developers, because all of us are way too freaking small to compete with Dota and Counter-Strike on our own. But damn, the grandeur, the incredibleness you get of an event that would be like all these different ones coming together, like a festival of RTSs. Instead, like, dude, like, you know, like, RuneFest is crap loads bigger than any of our RTS. No shade on Jagex and RuneScape. It's a huge game. But like, as a point, if you're talking like live events where people would think like, wait, like an MMO thing is bigger than art? Yeah, they are. Best RTS tournament overall I've seen in my life. Agreed. Which is inspiring and heartbreaking for me simultaneously. Heard that in Red Bull stream, some people in the chat had to leave because toxic AO2 players complained during an AO4 event. That's going to happen with everything, though. Like I've heard some people say that, holy crap, this game is so not toxic compared to games I watch. Of like, every scene has this, and I can guarantee you, like, dude, I remember I came up on Dota 2. There's some toxicity, yes, but compared to the like how bad I've seen the toxicity get at times in like these other scenes. Butterflies. Freaking butterflies. You know, like, as in, like, you know, it's not calling them, but you know what I mean? Like, it's butterflies is happiness by comparison. Heartbroken for Leary? Dude, I really thought he was going to do it. It was insane this guy got 3 games up. Like, you can't take it from Hero, though. That was the most godly comeback you could ever imagine.
Again, ever so slightly awkward because they both can hear us right now up on our stage. But
Yeah, I think I said this in my video the other day. One thing I probably would have said is like,
think you go for surprise.
if they do another event like this, what might actually make more sense is to almost have like some giant glass
Breaks the final is a fifth and
hub the players enter for their draft, where it's like they're in the battle HQ, so that you can soundproof it, so then the casters can talk about anything, secret strats and whatever, and not worry about tainting the draft.
play tournaments. You might not even play online, but you could
I will say that's kind of my feeling a little. The alternative is you do. So there is an alternative, but this is more you put on a show thing. Is that you pre-rig the draft, so they've all done their drafts ahead of time and written it down, and then just come and say what they're going to do. So that way you can't alter your draft as a player. You're just doing your draft. That actually might be like a better way. I know it sounds fakey that way, but then you at least keep the open atmosphere of how they want to do the draft.
Vikings, Herald, and Bengalis before. Italians is a civ that both players
A4 is super nice in comparison to some. Exactly. Like I said, we've got bad actors. We've got toxic people. We probably all can figure one person in our mind that comes to mind. But it isn't... I like to think it's not the majority.
I'm going to take it one step further and just say thank you so much to the community.
Most communities actually games like Mortal Kombat. Really?
The production,
I didn't know that.
everyone with Red Bull who made this happen. I know it's
I mean, I'd say team games you'd expect to be the roughest.
we're going to be into the games here. Microsoft World's Edge, everything's just been such an incredible opportunity.
Like I say, I think it's like I like to think that the toxic elements don't have power. I mean, maybe Lamal, that's a kick W after the experience this year. But like, I think we have good actors. You know, like I said earlier, I think Dimu's one of the good cookies. I think he wants good things for the scene and everyone around it. Anatan, Marine Lord, you know, the Canadian Bros, Mister if he comes back. I think I try to do just good things for the scene and avoid the bad. And so on, right? Like there's people there's always going to be bad actors or whatever, and everyone's always going to have the party they support no matter what. And I think like IOE2 has this as well. They have a lot of like good. They're gonna have some bad in there, but they got a lot of good, right? Like I think Hera deserves a lot of praise. Like Hera, I think he'd agree, but I don't know if it's toxic, but like his attitude very drastically changed after 4 came out, and then he had the League of Legends stint, and then came back to 2. I'm glad I met Hera at that point, because I don't know, I might have felt he was a great person either way, but I really like the person I met, and I feel like probably his experiences prior helped bring him to that stage in his life, because we're all shaped by what happens to us, right? The important thing is not to let it define us. And Hera is a really good ambassador for AoE4. AoE2, rather. Whoops. That's going to be clipped. Like, same as before him, Viper. Great ambassador for AoE2. The value of a great ambassador can never be overstated or overvalued. They make your game, because when people look at it publicly for a content consumption lens, those are the people they see. And if they aren't great champions of your game and welcomers within a community, then your game will just die. I actually think Warcraft 3 is held on after all these years because of those type of people. Like the Back to Warcraft guys and Grubby as pristine examples. I think Overwatch had great success, and a part of it should be given to Seagull, who was probably the best ambassador they could have ever imagined for that game. Talented, knowledgeable, funny, friendly. Dog ticked every box imaginable.
They removed the NS from that. And that was from last tournament. They made it Maya because that's more
It's not
historically
the Maya, it's the Mayans. We're not calling them the Brito. It's the Britons.
We hate change here.
Some people genuinely expressing their interest and positive impression of AoE4. I think, like, yeah, that's the thing. Like, I talked to some AoE2 people. Like I say, I think the big thing for me, I said to them, and they kind of felt the same, because like I heard what they're saying. Is like, if we just zoomed in the camera, you kind of know what's going on, wouldn't you? And they're like, yeah.
I think that's a really good band.
Yeah, I feel like I would.
Okay, well, there we go. There is a civ, though. We're not
All right, what do we do now? I don't think you guys want to watch the AoE2, even though it was insane.
We saw it a couple times.
Oh,
Will be always correct.
my boy Vipey.
Has to be.
You know, he spent like a few hours. Apparently, he spent a few hours outside, like taking pictures and signing and everything. Crazy amount of time.
That's a fair.
How is that a fail?
No, that's a fair.
All right, shall we cast some games? What do you think, guys?
Makes no sense.
Stop playing.
Should we check if there's some fun podcasts to do? Sure. Hey, what am I missing in chat? Do I even want to indulge? Multi-pion alert. Yeah, I mean, dude, the guy's like, the past is the past, and it sucks what it is. I think the thing I keep sticking by, and it's like, I think it's part of why I was willing to come back and have another go at it, is I don't like the idea of being a destroyer. I hate the idea of being a destroyer. I'll let other people in life and anything I do be the destroyers they want to be destroyers. I want to be a builder. I want to build someone that I'm proud of, that, like, my children will see, and other people see, and they'd love, and whatever, right? So I focus on that. That's what I want to get back to. There was way too much bullcrap going on. Gave me a lot of perspective on, you know, who's with, who's against, and a big learning point for me, right? My goal is to focus on building something bigger and bigger and bigger. And better for the scene. What's up, Ordinary Walk? I appreciate it, buddy. Yeah, the midweek muster, I don't see it being back anytime soon. But, like, we'll see how it goes. Like, for me, I think, you know, the funding's not there, so I'd have to find private funding. I don't know who would have that type of money. I'm weighing up doing, like, a fund me thing or something, some people said. But, like, it's... I think part of why I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to pack it up, is I didn't want to put the buck on you guys of, like, well, if you want me to stay, you're going to have to pay me. Right? But, like, now we're even more in that situation, I guess. But I think for the time being, like, the one thing I've said is, I guess I'm just going to be... I always felt it was, like, leeching, but whatever. Like, I'm trying to take a different light of it. Is, like, if there's any tournament on and I'm not working it, I'm just going to cast it. I tried to stay out of people's way before, but, like, my thought is there are people that will just want to watch because it's me. And that's your community build, right? And I kind of need to be doing that. I think it's probably it's been neglectful to my growth, probably, that I didn't do that. And it just has to be that way. I mean, it's the way AoE 2 functions, and the people do fine with it, you know? You consider yourself more of a light frigate? I feel like I'm becoming more of a heavy frigate at the moment. And not because I'm building muscle. I got to get back to climbing or whatever. Watching some Kaz. You're right. Special K is back. Wait, no. Is he back right now, or is he on... He might be on... I think he's on AoE 2 right now, right? I did notice that Kazra had started playing. That surprised me. I was like, wait, what? Say, what? Yeah, I don't think he's online playing right now. I think a lot of other language organizers appreciate casting their tournament in English. Yeah, and I think we'll look to do that with some. So, like, so I'll be covering Aboa's World Cup qualifiers this weekend. I'll cast them on this channel on Saturday and Sunday. And then the weekend afterwards, I think there's both the Aboa's World Cup, and there's also another tournament by, I think, a Chinese tournament organizer. I'll look into the time scheduling for those, and we'll look to do those too. Contribute to a prize pool for tourneys. The organizer isn't paying you, though. That's like saying World's Edge paid you for KPMM. That's true, which some people seem to take away from everything. No, but that's what I mean. It's like, it's even harder. If I'd said, I guess I could have, like, tried and be like, guys, I don't know, it just felt wrong. I was like, I'd done a stupid thing. The punishment was definitely over severe. Now I need you guys to pay this much to me per month for me to hang around. I didn't want to, like, emotionally blackmail or some crap. That's how it felt. But now it's like, if we were to do that, it'd have to be, like, doubly so somehow. I made it worse, right? But, like, I made it worse, but I think I needed to do what I was going to do because, I don't know, like I said, guys, let's just say, there's for example, there's one condition I've been diagnosed with. I've legit thought about like I maybe start doing a vlog on, which is really life changing, actually, in very annoying ways. And there's other things I'm waiting to hear back on still, right? And I wouldn't have even went and got any of that stuff diagnosed if I just kept doing what I was doing. What are you having for dinner? Rice! And are we having curry? I'm having a curry. What are you having? Come here, Frey. Say hi, stream.
Hi, Siri. I did actually did one the Up the Pits game, so we have it on.
Okay. What are you going to have for dinner?
Right. I don't know. What I think it's curry sauce.
Okay, well, I'm curry sauce, sorry. You go get eating that. Daddy be in soon, okay?
But we're outside.
Oh, you outside? Okay, I'll be there soon then. You go there. Say bye, stream. Blow kisses.
Bye, Trey.
Blow kisses. Hug you. God, she's such a narcissistic caster. She just always wants to be on camera. Someone's funding a tournament for him, getting revenue from it is indirectly paying him, right? Probably not directly proportional to the funding. No, not even close. Not even close. So, like, my goal originally when I was like, I got that funding on board is like, I'm trying to grow the channel to a point that I can get sponsors. But you start to grow a lot for that, really. Or you find small sponsors, but lose the caveats there. And also, like, 2025 and probably 2026 is a really horrible year for esports sponsorships for multiple reasons. Like, it's just the way the marketing industry is working right now. So, like, yeah, in theory, just go find sponsors, lol. But in practice, like, actually what it would come down to for that to have made mathematical sense is, like, you have so much ad revenue or so many subs coming in that you're able to pay your bills, which we were always transparent about this. We were never, hiding it. I literally tell people what my average income per month from Twitch stream was. And I think it's like, across the course of 2025, probably under $1,000 off of Twitch, which sounds cool, but we're talking like 120 hours on stream and then whatever off stream, and the cost of living in the UK sucks. So yeah. Am I going to cast Homestead? I have not been invited or asked to cast Homestead, but I will look to cast it on this channel instead. KPM had good viewerships. Yeah, but to put it another way, sponsors. So what you're then saying is like it had okay viewership, it was getting better, but it wasn't a point where it was attracting sponsors. Like I bust my ass over months trying to bring certain people to the table, and even if they were enthusiastic, their bosses were saying there was less budgeting this year, so they wouldn't do esports, right? And then so your other route is you could go like affiliate schemes or like very, very low base sponsor pay, but then there's like you get something from SKU sold, but like people don't buy things, right? On paper, demographically, we are a high spend audience, but in actuality, we're not, right? So yeah, no KPMM, less viewership, less income. Yeah, but the idea, and like I said, I never really got the time to put this into action. The idea was to go stream other games and start variety content that was a different niche and just build a cozy audience. And the reason that could work out well is the YouTube growth potentially is much better because, like, if you do Crimson Desert, a lot of people look at Crimson Desert, for example. And then the sponsor opportunities. Instead, you then become reliant on game sponsorship opportunities. Because if you have a core base audience that watches you play whatever, you can play whatever, you know? Like, you know, Spiff and Britt can go and do a breaking this game video about any game because people will watch it because it's his concept, it's his thing. Whereas, like, when you only do esports, like I had this where even an RTS sponsor, I'd done it for a decent price. And then when I went back to talk about doing a different game, there was another RTS through this platform, they cut the offer by like 80%, despite the fact at that point my viewership was higher than it had been, because what they'd done is they used that as a test base and seen the viewership went like this when you change game, And thus, they argued that that is too drastic of a drop-off, and we're not going to pay you that anymore, sort of thing, right? So the goal, like, moving forward, and I'm still figuring this out, because, like, a big part, like I said, I started to experiment with shorts, but I never got the long form rolling, because legit, through all the diagnoses and the doctor's appointments and everything else happening in life, I just haven't had time, really. The goal moving forward is to have a secondary YouTube channel to grow on its own, with these different cool concepts, or what I think is cool concepts we're doing. And then I'll probably still stream those things, but the YouTube will be kept separate, because any platform that's algorithmic hates intermingling. But like Twitch doesn't have an algorithm, so it's a community thing instead. So we'll just roll with that. Alright, I was trying to see what we said we're gonna do. Well, Kaz was offline now. Whoops. Special K. Actually, I think food is. I don't know. We could call it. Like, it's been what, almost 4 hours, and we're gonna be live. I mean, I guess you guys would just prefer tournament games on the weekend anyway. But yeah, that is kind of the idea now. Anyway, Leon, is like I'm gonna have that secondary channel. So like, in the coming weeks, we've got like 3 or 4 videos that I think are awesome to do there. I still need to edit down the 7-hour Crimson Desert channel video and figure out how I want to do that one. But yeah, goal is to grow something separate. And this is like not unheard of. A lot of people do this because it's just smart, right? And then wherever possible, intermingle those communities, because I think they can be beneficial to each other. You know, saying about like Olden Era, I might make an Olden Era channel, and then we'll have like a day where we do Olden Era, a day where we do Age of Empires 4, and I genuinely think those communities would like each other a lot. Some people definitely aren't going to even want to check out a different game, but some would be curious. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Plans and things that need to be figured out, but that takes time. I think it's sad that we have to wait for big organizers like EGC and Red Bull to organize tournaments with nothing in between. When KPM was there, it was different. KPM's golden age of AoE4. Yeah, I feel like we were by far the like highest like value prop for cost. And you know, I did tell them like I wasn't gonna come back, because I genuinely didn't think I was gonna come back. It is just unfortunate the way it played out. Because now the money is allocated anyway, so like there's no like I think Nilly would be open to it, but we'd have to wait until like next year, basically, which is a long time. So we'll see. We'll figure it out. And by the way, like I don't know, I think I saw some people in the past like putting ills. Nilly had no control over everything that happened. Nilly has been nothing but supportive to me. I will always thumbs up and back that guy, because I think the thing I said is that I kind of wish Nilly had a lot more power in saying everything around the Age of Empires scenes, because I think he's actually probably the one that gets it better than everyone else on so many levels. It's just unfortunate people that are like less clocked in are higher up the chain. But you could argue if he was higher up the chain, maybe he wouldn't be as clocked in. I don't know, but like the point is he works his ass off. All right, I think because food is ready, which I thought I was just going to have cold food, I guess I'll go eat. And then, because we could do some pub games, but whatever. The pub games aren't going to go anywhere. And then that'll set us up for, let me just double check the times. Because we said we're going to cast some tournaments. AoE4 tournaments. So on the weekend, we've got the qualifier for the Opposed World Cup. It's the second one running. The main event is already going to have a bunch of people locked in, such as Marine Lord and Anatan and Wham and a bunch of others. Qualifier 1 and 2, I need to double check the start time. I will message Stopper now, actually, to get confirmation on that. Okay, I can't find Stopper. Whoops. I'll figure out what the start time is for that. So we'll be looking to cast the Opposed World Cup or for its qualifiers rather, on Saturday, Sunday. So back into live tournament coverages, basically. And I think the start time on that I'm just double checking the handbook now. I don't think the handbook even says. Oh, there you go. Each tournament game day starts at 15 GMT. So we'll be live at 15 GMT on Saturday as well as Sunday, which I think is, if I'm not mistaken, 4 p.m. UK time. I guess I'm going to be eating dinner early. Freya will be happy about that. She's always hungry. But what I'll do now, guys, I mean, I don't know why that just popped up. Are they even speaking?
Du musst halt arbeiten und alles und kannst nicht voll.
Yo, how many ones have we got Germans in chat? Have we got enough Germans? I'm weighing up like raiding the Dota 2 channel. I don't know if we got enough people that know German for me to raid them. Do you guys want me to send you to a Dota 2 tournament? The Being Esports guys are alive. That's what I was thinking. Or actually, hold on a sec. What was the German is basically English? Empire Wars tournaments? We don't have any of those. I'm thinking, like, I don't know. I was thinking of sending you across. See, now I've been like debating German. You guys are arguing for a Spanish raid. What? Huh? I feel like we're just going down a weird rabbit hole here, guys. Let me see. What if a German but not into Dota 2? Too bad, you'll have to get into. It's not a choice, it's a way of life. Alright, yeah, I'll coin flip it. It's the only fair way to do things. I'll even let you guys see the coin flip so you know I'm not lying. We're going to coin flip this. Tails, we raid the Germans. Heads, we raid l'Espagnol. We're raiding l'Espagnol. Alright, let me go ahead and get him up. It's not a good sign when Age of Wonder 4 comes up before Age of Empires. Wait, what? I just noticed that. Oh, crap. Actually, we could have raided Stopper, the guy who's, like, organizing the opposed. Well, oh, well. Whatever, dude. Like, we turn it into a tournament now where we have to, like, go again. Actually, yeah, no, you know what? No, I agree with that. It is fair. Because we're going to be, and you guys can ask him start time to confirm it. I am going to raid Stopper because we are going to be, like, we're going to cover his tournament. I think that's fair. Next time, if Pilsen's live, we'll raid Pilsen to balance it out, okay? I think Stopper is fair today, considering we're doing the opposed World Cup on Saturday, Sunday. Next time, Pilsen. Okay. All right, guys. I think I'm all caught up. That's it. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully, I'll see you all on the weekend. Starting to work on making this a good year. Let's manifest a good year.